So our initial Week 12 NFL picks against the spread video. Going to get into all the games. We had some major news today that are going to affect these picks. So before we get into everything, please hit like, subscribe, comment below, share this video, visit the link in the description for the merch store. As always, I'm wearing something from the merch store. It is a 100% USDA man t-shirt, which my daughter loves, by the way. She loves the little hot dogs. She's like, hot dogs, hot dogs. So you can get that as well as everything else at the merch store here. We have a 20% off sale. You can change the colors of every shirt. You can get hoodie, you can get women's tank top, infant onesie, and if you're crazy enough, you can get long sleeve t-shirt. We have mugs, we have our apron, we have our baseball cap, we have everything here. You can go to Amazon, buy my books. The most recent, or the most recent one is Jerks of the College Years, where I made fun of people. I was at Penn State for 6 years, so as you can see by the cover, it's some very interesting people I ran into at Penn State. My first book was The Safety and a Field Goal, which our co-host Andy has. It's a top 5 book about the NFL. It's a bunch of topics and mostly serious stuff, but some fun stuff too, some crazy stories that people have not heard if you haven't read it. Also, please consider super chats, super stickers. It's the best way to support the show. And it really is. And Kevin Kovac gave us about $100 in super chats and super stickers last week. So thank you so much, Kevin. Thank you to Slew.
I guess that's what happened when you go 5 for 5.
That's true. That's true.
Let's hope that's true.
Yeah. So, yes, thank you to everyone for helping us out. Like I always say, YouTube ads don't pay anything. It is Q4, so it's a little bit better than usual, but Q1 is just around the corner, a month and a half from now, so it's going to get back to nothing. So if you guys really want to keep the show going, just consider the super chats and super stickers. All right. We are joined by Andy Iskoe once again from thelogicalapproach.com, which I will put on the screen right now. Andy, how are you, and how is your week 11?
Well, obviously, we can see on the screen that I haven't updated the site for a few weeks for the updated stats. But that will end tonight because I'm finally caught up, including with my Matrix, which, by the way, we'll come to it in a little bit. But everybody was laughing when I rated the Rams in Seattle 1 and 2. What can I say?
I don't think everyone was laughing.
Well, everybody was paying attention was laughing.
Yeah, well, the Rams, I liked that call. The Rams, Seahawks. That was kind of a crazy game that they covered, considering the Darnold.
Well, they outgained them by so much despite turning the ball over. And the point is, what better case can you make for these teams being almost evenly rated? That despite the way the game went, it came down to the final possession, and if the Seahawks had a better field goal kicker, they get the winning field goal, or if they had saved some of their timeouts. So, the game was as close as you thought. And of course, when it's a 3-point game and the underdog covers, that's a competitive game.
Yeah, or if the Rams had a worse punter because they pinned them at the 1-inch line, so that certainly affected that final drive. That was quite the game. That was again a weird 4 or 5 time. Hopefully the next one is in prime time. I'm not sure when that is, but hopefully the NFL flexes that or something, so more people get to watch that because people are also watching the Chiefs and Broncos game. So how'd you do picks wise in week 11?
It did very well. I was one who had Denver on the money line. Nice. I forget the other ones that I had. I had a good, early start today. I know I lost with, Detroit on. Well, I didn't lose on Detroit. Dave Campbell lost it with his 0 for 5 on 4th down. This guy never learns. He 0 for 5 on 3rd down instead on 3rd down. Now, first of all, it's a low-scoring game, and you can tell that almost from the beginning. So if you get a chance to get 3 points, take it because those 3 points may and would have come in handy. I don't know how many times, and maybe you recall because I wasn't paying full attention to it, but of the 5 times he went for it on 4th down, how many times did he have the option of going for a reasonable field goal attempt if he didn't go for it on 4th down?
I'd have to review it because I missed the first quarter or so because I was putting my son to bed, which usually this par for the course for any Thursday, Sunday, or Monday night game because my son wants his bedtime.
I may be wrong, but I'm saying even if it's 3 out of the 5 that he had a chance to go for a field goal. I mean, I know a couple of times they were right down inside by the 1 yard line or something along those lines or close. Those 9 points made the difference between a win and a loss.
Yeah, I mean,
and remember, this is the guy who blew the championship game a few years ago at the 49ers.
Yeah, there was a lot in that game. I had the Lions at 40-1 to win the Super Bowl. I was very upset with them blowing the 17-point lead. So I
understand and I appreciate him going for it as often as he does, but you have to keep in mind the circumstances, how the game is being played, and the reward is nice if you make it. No guarantee you're going to score the touchdown, even if you make the fourth down conversion. But the point is that in a game that figures to be low scoring, or at least figured from the point spread to be a competitive game, at the home team favored by 2.5 is basically a pick'em game. So either team can win. And I think that a coach like that, who I applaud him for his aggressiveness, but it's like everything else in life, time and place.
Sure, and I mean, you had bad conditions too. You had windy weather, cold weather, and Jared Goff has never played well in those circumstances.
Even more of a reason, by the way, to take the points when you can get them.
Yeah. As long as the field goal is reasonable. Cassandra says his play calling was also atrocious. Goff's mind was clearly gone from the pressure. Stop calling his throws 30 yards downfield. The stuff that worked was the short passes to Gibbs, and he would pick up big yards. That was not a
which does a lot of things. It advances the football and takes time off the clock in a game where possessions are going to be very precious because of the pace that a short running or passing a game employs.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I know you had the Steelers as well. I don't know if you played that in the contest, but
I may have played them in one of the on one of the cards. But yes, okay. I did like the Steelers over the Bengals. Didn't expect it to be that easy, but and it'll be interesting to see what the Steelers do this week against the I'm not going to call them lucky anymore, because to win the games the way the Bears are winning them, you've got to be good and be in a position. And sometimes it means, hey, if we're in position to win or go to tie or go ahead in the final 5 minutes of the game, that's a good situation. And coaching sometimes puts you in that situation and allows you to use some plays that maybe you hadn't used before if you are in that position to win in the final 5 minutes.
Sure. They were lucky earlier in the year. This past week, they were much better. They were much better. So maybe they're improving as Caleb Williams gets more experience and Ben Johnson.
Well, Ben Johnson's clearly making a difference.
Oh yeah, that's 100% true. Yeah, a night and day from last year when he had Matt Eberflus looking clueless on the sideline. So it's coaching can go a long way. As we've seen.
There's a group of us now that whenever there's a turnover in a game, it's an Eberflus.
I like that. Or
although let's give him credit, he has made some decent strides with the Dallas defense in recent weeks.
Yeah, well, getting Quinn Williams and Logan Wilson will certainly help. That was a good performance.
Yeah, but I suppose you could say it's hard to screw it up with those two guys, but there are people who are capable of screwing up, an all-pro team.
Oh yeah, that's true. Either way, Eberflus should not be a head coach again. We've seen enough of that. But if he wants to be a long-time defense coordinator, then that
it hasn't hurt Steve Spagnuolo.
No, it hasn't. And we've seen other coaches fail.
We mentioned before North Turner on offense, Phillips on defense. Wade Phillips. Bum was good all over the place, especially for quotes. But there are people, because there's different responsibilities when you're a head coach. And you're more of an organizer when you're a head coach than when you're like an offensive or defensive coordinator, in most instances, where you're basically focusing on just one aspect of the game 100% of the time, as opposed to being the head guy where you're overseeing everything, dealing with the media, etc. And you can't give as much attention to what used to be your full-time job when it's only, say, 60% of what you do now.
Right, exactly. And we've seen more recent examples: Josh McDaniels, Raheem Morris. These guys have not done well as head coaches, but they've been great coordinators. So in multiple places. So it's you're right. It's more responsibilities, and some guys just can't do it, and they just want to be limited to being a coordinator. We know. One of Charlie's sources is a coordinator, and I always just asked him one time, like, did you want to ever be a head coach? He's like, no, I'm fine coaching. I don't want to say which side of the ball. He's like, I just fine coaching this side of the ball.
As long as the owner pays him a salary that is probably somewhere between the average coordinator and the average head coach.
Yeah, right.
In other words, makes the coordinators worthwhile to stay in that position if he gets
Right.
paid almost commensurate with what a head coach would do.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Andy, Mia, Miami, won her third debate out of the last 4, but her grader still has her an F. Surely you have an opinion on this as we update Miami.
Yeah, it's the malady of so many damn coaches. They're too effing stubborn. You're going to win my way. I'm not going to win playing to your talent. We're not going to win playing to your talents. How stubborn can you be? Well, that's what the grader is.
I'm sorry for being so stubborn.
Yeah, well, no, I'm saying, but that's what how many coaches do. I mean, one of the best examples, and there are several of them. Brian Billick, offensive coordinator with Minnesota in the late '90s. Okay, made his living with creative offense. Goes to Baltimore, inherits a below average offense, but an outstanding defense. So he said, okay, we'll run we'll get an offensive coordinator who takes the talents of the guys we have and do it, and we'll concentrate on having our defense win it. And all it did was win a Super Bowl with one of the best defenses of the past 25 years.
Yeah, and then he traded or he got rid of Trent Dilfer and got Elvis Gerback, which did not work out very well.
And people were always rooting in the stands. When will Elvis leave the building?
He was not very good, and it hurt Brian Billick that he didn't have Randy Moss and Chris Carter and Jake Reed and Robert Smith. Not having those guys is like makes you a little bit less of a genius. So. Well,
it does, but it also said that okay, we're going to win with our defense because we just don't have a very good offense. We just don't have the talent. Right. Ozzie Newsome did. He's one of the more unheralded executives probably of the last 25 years or so. He did a brilliant job in drafting for the Ravens.
He was incredible. Yeah. He would hit all most of the time. So now it's like Howie Roseman, I would say, is probably.
By the way, another answer about Mia winning her third debate of the last 4, but the grader didn't. Still hasn't. Probably the grader can't count.
Well, what if Mia is going against a crack addict named Wendy in this debate? Like,
you can only beat the team that's in front of you. You can only debate the person debating against you.
Sure, but
to use another football analogy.
Sure. In this, I don't know. Mia lost the debate very poorly against a. I don't even know what's Cleveland. Clara. They just got blown out by Clara, who's also bad at debating. Let's remember that too, and on all the other lost debates.
Well, remember Carolina beat Green Bay this year too as a 13-point underdog, so it happens.
Sure. Yeah. Anyone can beat anyone in the NFL any given Sunday and all that.
Any given Sunday.
Yeah. All right, let's get to the games. So we have you mentioned low scoring game. This could be a low scoring game as well. Bills at the Texans. The Bills are -6. We can look at their injury report, the final one. No surprises here. Dalton Kincaid out. We knew that. Nothing really else of note for Buffalo. Curtis Samuel out, but doesn't really matter. For Houston, Jalen Petrie out. We knew that. CJ Stroud out. We knew that. I guess we knew that as of yesterday, at least. But yeah, so it's gonna be Davis Mills once again, starting against Buffalo, and I'm inclined to take the points here. I'm not in love with it, and it's a Thursday game anyway, so I don't really want to bet it in the first place. But last year we saw Josh Allen go into Houston and really struggle. He lost that game. Granted, it was against CJ Stroud, but he really couldn't get going until late in the game. He tried to get a comeback. It didn't quite work. But I think he was like stuck at 3 points for a while in the first half. If I remember correctly, I think Houston was up like 17-3 or something. So Josh Allen, coming off that great game, MVP type game, 3 passing touchdowns, 3 rushing touchdowns. I can understand why the Bills are favored by 6 because he was that great last week. But I think that Houston's defense is going to provide much more of a challenge here. And we know Buffalo can't stop the run. And that's the one edge that really any player has in this game is Houston's Woody Marks. A talented running back, not amazing, but he's got some talent. He should be able to run a Buffalo and make things easier for Davis Mills. So I think this will be a close game. So I like Houston here, but again, not going to bet this one. Who do you like here?
I do like Houston in this game. I was undecided earlier, and then I did a little bit more thought on the game. And really, it's going to be Houston's defense that keeps them in this game. I mean, I have Houston highly rated, much more more highly rated than almost anybody as far as the numbers go. And it's largely because of their defense and that they're generally competitive in most games. Their average margin of loss, I think, is under 5 points per. They've been able to win comfortably when things are going well, and we've obviously seen some comeback ability out of the Texans. I like this team. Third year for Stroud, even though he's banged up. Third year for DeMeco Ryans. Well, they won the AFC South the last 2 years, and I think in both years they won a playoff game. I think we talked about that before. I'm not going to call for the outright upset in this game. At least I haven't decided yet. But I wouldn't be shocked if it happened because Houston is a fundamentally sound football team. They know what they can do, they know what they can't do, and they do more of what they can do than what they can't do. They don't take a lot of aggressive chances that come in bad situations.
Yeah. So yeah, we're in agreement on this one. What's your level of confidence here? Are you going to bet this one or?
I'm definitely gonna bet it.
Okay.
And I doubt, unless I can find, and I like a number of games this week, and unless I can find within the next, about 20 hours, 4 other games that I feel very comfortable about to play them in the contest. I won't be playing this one in the contest, but only because of the fact that it's a Thursday night game. And again, that's not why I'm not playing it, other than the fact that you have 48 hours after the Thursday night game to decide on your 5 final picks. Now, there are some weeks where I know early in the week which teams I'm looking at, and I study these things 4 or 5 times between Sunday night and Thursday, taking some time off between looks and everything. So sometimes I see things that I didn't see the first couple or 3 times. Other times, every time I look at the game, I see the same thing.
Okay, yeah. So if you had the option to change your picks, kind of like on the DraftKings contest, would this be one of your 5?
Depending on the contest line, and let me see. Well, I don't have it up now. What the contest line is for the Westgate in this game. If it were +6, I would definitely play it as a team that I could switch out of. If I found a bet. Well, no, I'd have to do it before Thursday night's game, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So I don't know that I would find another game in time, but if there were a game in time, the being able to opt out only applies really to Sunday, Monday games. Or if you have a number of late games available and you decide when you see the inactives Thursday morning or Sunday morning, you can say, okay, I'm going to take out this 10 a.m. game, or 1 p.m. game Eastern, and put in the later game or the Sunday night or the Monday night game, which I also liked because some guys and of course you don't know who's going to be inactive on the Sunday night or Monday night games when you know who's going to be inactive on the 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific games. But when it comes to Thursday night, you really don't have much of a choice unless all of a sudden, and it could be a situation again, but I can control that. For example, if I want to play the Thursday night game and I've got 4 other games and let's say I'm concerned about the status of David Mills and Stroud. And 90 minutes before game time on Thursday, they announced that Stroud is going to play. And let's say I'm stronger on the Texans with Stroud in there, I might put the play in then before the kickoff. If on the other hand, because with these contests, I don't know how it is with DraftKings, but I guess it's from what you tell me, you can change it any time before the game kicks off. Not any game kicks off like it is with Westgate, okay, and Circa, where we have to put all 5 selections in at once, and you can't make any changes. So if that's the situation and I don't get the quarterback I want, then I won't put any plays in unless I said, you know what, I know I'm not going to change my mind, which really doesn't make sense because you're only hurting yourself, but they're not giving yourself the option of rethinking and changing, between Thursday night and Saturday. But in the situation where I might say, you know what, I know the other 5 games are going to play, I can put them in then rather than including the Thursday night game. But that's something that I can't even recall ever doing.
Yeah.
That if I didn't play the Thursday night game, I didn't put my 5 plays in until Saturday. Now, of course, it's going to be a little bit different in another week when we have the 3 Thanksgiving games and the Friday game. So, no buys that week. There are still 8 teams that have buys, 4 this week and 4 in week 14. Everybody plays in week 13. So a full complement of 16 games, but 4 of them, a quarter of them are being played Thursday and Friday. So that might be a situation there where if you like two of the 4 games being played Thursday and Friday, or if you like them a lot, and judging right now, the games that we have, we got Kansas City at Dallas, and whereas it appeared before the season started, you're probably not saving Dallas, you're probably saving Kansas City for that game. I'm not so sure about, but we'll talk about both of those games later. You've got Chicago and Philadelphia on Friday, and a lot of people were thinking of saving Philadelphia for that Friday game against Chicago, and now Chicago, maybe they're not a great team, but they find a way of winning, and that's what it's all about. You could be a 14-point underdog and win, and you survive in Survivor. Okay, but as far as against the point spread goes, that's different. You might still like Chicago plus the points in that game, depending what that line is. You've got Green Bay and Detroit, and even before the season, we didn't know what to expect, other than both teams figured to be in playoff contention. As it turns out, Green Bay and Detroit, it's now a revenge game for Detroit as they went up to Green Bay in week 1 and lost. So this is a critical game for them as far as the NFC race goes, as far as the NFC North and even the playoff, the wild cards, because you've got 3 teams competing for a division title in the West. You've got 3 teams division for a division title in the North. You really only have 1 team, Tampa Bay, in the South, although I guess Jacksonville could make a little bit of a run. And in the East, you really have Philadelphia. And we don't know yet about Dallas. I think it's a little early to write them off because they have shown the potential, over in some periods, although, that loss to Arizona is going to hurt them. But when I take a look at, how these picks are made, I generally prefer to wait. But the Thanksgiving, I mentioned the other game would be Baltimore and Cincinnati, and that's all going to depend on Joe Burrow. Yeah,
and we might get Burrow this week too. So that's something that we learned today. And
I wonder why. If they had won last week, it might be different. But what are they now? 3-7, 3-8.
They're 3-7.
3-7, right? They've had their bye.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, to be realistic, and again, with so many teams in contention, of course they play each other, so it'll all, undo itself over the remainder of the season. But unless Cincinnati thinks, and they have to be realistic, unless they think they can run the table and finish 10-7, which should get them a wild card, although it didn't in the NFC last year to 10-7 Seattle, why bring him back?
Well, if he's healthy, why not?
Well, why bring them back? If they were aiming for the 21st, well, that's really the deadline, But if they were aiming for the 21st, because they thought he could be ready on the 14th, or whatever the it'd be a 21-day protocol a week earlier.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a Cincinnati Bengals organization,
Yeah.
There's a good thing that they're not that far from Cleveland, because that's about the only team that can do worse. Well, I'll throw the Jets in there as well. They're pretty dysfunctional.
Yeah, the whole corridor there is pretty bad. Giants have been awful too, but they at least have something going with their quarterback. I don't know.
So in answer to your question, yes, I am betting the Texans. I doubt that I will use them in the contest unless I find, and I've got about 7 other teams that I'm considering for the contest. So unless I make a decision, before kickoff tomorrow, I won't be using the Texans, but I will be betting them. I want to wait and see what this line does, if it goes up another half point or if it stays the same.
Okay. Cool. It sounds great that you like a lot of games this week. Can't wait to get into the other ones. Cassandra asking, we have 4 unit on New England minus 7.5. Would you hedge off with Burrow potentially coming back? How would you handle this?
I kind of like Cincinnati anyway in this game. I kind of think that this is where New England gets a little may take an opponent for granted, especially with Chase out. And they might be let me see who New England plays.
They play Cleveland. They play Cleveland afterward. Yeah.
Cleveland? I thought they already beat Cleveland. I'm talking about who the Patriots play next.
Yeah, the Patriots, yeah.
No, I thought they beat Cleveland earlier. Maybe not.
Oh, sorry, they played the Giants.
Okay, yeah, that's right. That's
the Monday night.
The Monday night game. Yeah, I was going to say I thought they beat Cleveland. They beat them handily back in what is it? Back in October 26th, which was week 8. So they might take Cincinnati a little lightly. And again, I don't know what Burrow's going to play, but I have to believe, with or without Burrow, Cincinnati's going to do everything it can to win this game, knowing that if they win this game, it makes sense to perhaps play Burrow in week 13 on Thanksgiving against Baltimore. Right. Let me see who Cincinnati has. Cincinnati has coming up, because that has a lot to do with this situation as well. Do they have a realistic opportunity? Like with Baltimore, we know that Baltimore's going to, in most cases, be favored in every game that they still have, except for Week 17 in Green Bay. I do believe, if they continue to win as we expect them to do against these lesser opponents, they got 2 games with Cincinnati. They've got 2 games with Pittsburgh. Do the Ravens? That I think that Baltimore will be favored at home against New England in, I think it's Week 16.
Yeah.
So you take a look at Baltimore now. You take a look at Cincinnati. Okay, they lost at Pittsburgh. I figure they should lose at New England, but they have to look at this game as critical to their decision as far as what to do with Burrow. But it may not matter, because the next 3 games after New England, and again, I'm talking about now, let's assume that Cincinnati beats New England, the best case scenario for them. Okay, so they are now what? They would be 4-7. With 6 games to go. The next 2 games, where they want to avoid losses 8 and 9, because 9 losses probably eliminates you. Okay.
Probably, yeah.
At Baltimore, at Buffalo, the next 2 weeks.
Yeah.
With or without Burrow, they're going to be tough games. Then you play Baltimore again at home. So there's 3 games after this week's game against New England: at Baltimore, at Buffalo, at home to Baltimore.
Yep.
Then they have 3 winnable games later: at Miami, hosting Arizona, hosting Cleveland. But those games may be meaningless. They may have been mathematically eliminated. So I think this is a critical game. I don't know that they will start Burrow, but if they send a signal to the team that, hey, go out and win this game, and Joey's coming back on Thursday. Now, it's one thing to say it, but it doesn't necessarily mean that that's how it's going to work out.
I'm a little confused. Like, if he's healthy enough to play, why wouldn't he play anyway? Like, why would he just sit out?
Well, that's it. I mean, it's a question, is Cincinnati playing games and have New England spend part of their preparation time planning for Burrow, even if they know he's not going to play?
Right. Yeah. I get it this time, but I'm just saying that, like, even if they lose this game, if Burrow's 100%, like why wouldn't they just play him? Like there's because realistically, you're looking at having to win out the rest of the way. If they lose to New England, they're 3-8. I get that. I'm just saying that, like, if he's 100%, like, why wouldn't he just play anyway?
Why would you want? Why would you? Well, because why would you want to risk the franchise player for meaningless games? They're meaningless other than stats and bonuses.
Yeah, I get that, but, like, if he's,
in other words, maybe Cincinnati, despite being a stingy organization, says, Joe, we want to protect you for the next few years. We don't want to risk injury. We're gonna pay you for all the incentives and bonuses that you might have achieved, not that you would have, but that you might have achieved had you played the rest of the season.
I would be shocked.
I mean, look, every athlete wants to play. They could be, they'll hold back on admitting injuries because that's their nature. That's what makes these guys the best in the world.
Yeah.
Okay. But you have to think long term. This is Joe Burrow's played for the Bengals for a number of years. They didn't make the playoffs the last 2 years.
Yeah, I know.
So why risk injury to the guy who's your friend? Now, the argument could be that, okay, if he plays and he gets injured, 2 points. Number 1, let's hope it's not a serious injury that causes him to miss the start of next season. No ACL or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
Number 2, Flacco's a capable enough backup that he gives us a chance to win every time he takes the field, notwithstanding our defense.
Yeah, well, last week's results said different about Flacco, but yeah,
That's one game. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. He hasn't really been the same since that shoulder injury, though. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like if Burrow's 100%, like
And let me ask you a question. Do you have Burrow in any fantasy leagues?
No, I have him. I have him in some best ball. I actually drafted him a couple times in best ball this week. So I would like it if he played, but not
people's
in
opinions.
Sorry, what'd you say?
No, I'm saying that because if you have Burrow in a fantasy league, that skews your opinion of whether or not he should play. You want him to play if you have him in your fantasy league.
Yeah, I have him in two of my 250 best ball draft. It doesn't matter.
Joe Burrow fills seats. Filled seats means concession sales up. Well, a lot of people, if they don't attend the game, they sell their tickets to people who come in from out of town. So the concession stands will be fine. Most of these teams sell out their stadium in the preseason, either the true fans or the fans who are looking to resell them. We see that here in Vegas all the time. Notice how significant portion of the crowds here in Vegas are for the other teams.
Yeah, I would say that week 17 game against Arizona, there's gonna be no one in the stands if Burrow's out and as Cincinnati doesn't have a chance to make the playoffs. You know, no one's gonna go.
There will be people in the stands who won't mind paying $50 for a $300 ticket that the owner just wants to get rid of and get something back.
Yeah, that's true. It's I doubt.
And by the way, stadiums, the concessionaires get hurt a little bit, but the owners don't care. They get most of their money from the TV contracts.
Yeah, I mean that's true. I don't know. I feel like if Burrow's 100% healthy, then he's gonna play. And maybe
how about Jackson Dart of the Giants?
I think if he's 100%, then I would play him and try to get him some starts.
Well, the reason I wouldn't, because his injury, he's had several concussions this year.
Yeah, no, that's
why I would. That is a major factor why now I don't know how many concussions Burrow has had over the season and how many times he was sacked when he was in there, although he didn't play many snaps this year. But you have to consider they've got a huge investment in Joe Burrow, and the investment is predicated based upon the fact that he can and he has taken Cincinnati to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I could see them justifying it as let's build some momentum for next year. And
how about instead of building momentum, Cincinnati, you build a defense?
Well,
we all knew going into the off season that's what they needed. So where did they spend money? Locking up. I don't know if it was Burrow this year. I think Chase got locked up and Higgins got locked up or something.
Yeah.
That's not your problem. So what if you score 30 points a game instead of 34 points a game? That's still going to win you most games. But if you can prevent a touchdown a game from putting together a good defense, that's more than worth the investment.
It's the cheapness of the owner. I don't know if you saw that stat.
Well, it's not so much the cheapness of the owner; it's the misplaced priorities by, let's say, the owner and the GM. But go ahead. What's that we're going to talk about?
Well, I don't know if you saw the stat. I brought it up on the show. I don't know if it was with you though. They posted a number of scouts employed by each team in the AFC North, and
I don't remember that.
It was like Ravens 30, Browns 20. Actually, I think the Browns had the most. The Browns 30, Ravens 26, Steelers 24, Bengals 4. They have 4 scouts on their whole front office.
So scratch that off the list of teams that suck because they don't have enough playing time or practice time. Bengals suck because they don't have enough scouts to go and get them the good talent.
Yeah, and that's why I said the ownership paying the money. Pay some scouts and you'll draft better. They draft very poorly every year, and it's because they don't have any scouts.
Well, at least it's better than Woody Johnson of the Jets, who instead of using scouts uses Madden ratings.
Yeah, and he doesn't want the player report cards anymore.
He doesn't want what?
He doesn't want the player report cards anymore. I don't know if you saw that story.
I missed that one.
So every team has player report cards for their owner. So every player grades their owner on how well they treat the players.
I thought it was report cards on performance that the owner takes a look at to decide if they want to keep them.
No. See, the players grade the owners.
Unfortunately, the other way around doesn't matter because the players don't. The grades the players give don't have anything to do with whether or not the team is going to keep the owner.
Sure, right.
They're stuck with them.
Right.
In fact, you give the owner a bad report card, you're probably cut somewhere, which a lot of people on the Bengals probably wouldn't mind. A lot of the players,
and
they were made free agents.
These report cards might impact where players go in free agency, as So yeah, I mean, it is somewhat important. So Woody Johnson, who's always graded as an F owner, he said he wanted to get rid of these report cards.
Yeah. Well, someone will tell Woody, "Hey Woody, don't you understand? F stands for fantastic."
Right. maybe
he might fall for it.
Yeah, I think he's that's stupid that he would. All right, let's get to the next game, which is the Steelers at the Bears. This line was Bears -3. It's dropped to 2.5. Not quite sure why. I was looking at the injury report today, and there were guys missing on both sides.
I would not mind if Mason Rudolph pitched for the Steelers.
Yeah, I agree. Rodgers is DNP today. Jalen Warren DNP today. Alice Highsmith DNP today. Those are the major Steelers. For the Bears, Jaquan Brisker, Tremaine Edmonds, and TJ Edwards all DNP. So some significant back seven guys for the Bears, and Rodgers and Jalen Warren. But I don't think Rodgers and Jalen Warren are as important, despite playing the more important positions, or at least the quarterback. Because like you said, Mason Rudolph is actually better than Aaron Rodgers was last week. So I think that this is a case where if Mason Rudolph plays, he can succeed against this Bears defense that has been awful against the pass and worse against the run ever since TJ Edwards got hurt. So I feel like the Steelers can move the ball here. And given that this line dropped from 3 to 2.5, it looks like a bullish indicator on Pittsburgh. Yeah, I think I think I would take the Steelers here. But this is not a high confidence pick for me. I'm curious if you have a stronger opinion on this game.
It's a medium confidence pick for me. I like the Steelers. It's a good spot for them. At some point, the Bears are going to run out of all that good fortune that they've had. Not necessarily the Steelers, but the Steelers. Look, the Steelers played a good game last week. The defense shut down a Cincinnati attack that, still with the players that they have, can put points up. So the Steelers have done that, and they've played well in certain areas. What was the game a few weeks ago they played? What was it, the Chargers?
Yeah. 2 weeks ago they played the Chargers and got blown out.
Yeah, but I think there was a game before that they played. It was maybe it was the game after that they played. I'm trying to remember the game that they played that they looked, better than they had. It was before the Cincinnati game. Let me see if I can call that up here. But I like
the Colts game. They beat the Colts.
That's right, with Danny's turnovers.
Yes.
Yeah, it showed that they could be done, and the defense they still. Is showing some improvement from what they were. The problem with the Steelers defense is they, at least from a lot of the games I recall, they played great first quarter and then sort of ran out of gas. Now, that might not be running out of gas. It may be the other team making adjustments.
Right. So,
but, I like the Steelers here. I'm going to see if I can find what they are because I made the copies of the Westgate. I haven't sent out the email yet. I'm going to be doing that when we're done at 3 a.m. I'll be sending that email out as far as that goes. But, I don't know if I would play it. Steelers at +3 in the contest. I know I won't play them at +2.5.
Yeah, makes sense. Cassandra asking, so was that a not sure on the hedge on the Patriots? It's Cassandra having 4 units on the Patriots, my 7.5. Would you hedge? But Andy said he already likes Cincinnati, so he would take Cincinnati anyways.
Yeah, I would make a play on Cincinnati, or better yet, your best strategy: wait until in game.
Yeah, that's you could definitely do that. We had a question on
see that's the beauty, and you can't really do it in teasers or anything like that, okay? Because you have to make those plays before the game. I don't believe they have adjusted teaser lines, and you can't really hedge if there's more than one team involved. But with straight bets or parlays, you can't really do it unless you have the first 2 legs. Let's say if it's a 3-team parlay, you have the first leg or the first 2 legs in. You can hedge in game as the situation calls it, because there'll be several fluctuations both ways in most games. I mean, if it's a 35-3 or 35-6 game like the Jags had last week against the Chargers, kind of really be hard to do any hedging on the Chargers if you had Jacksonville, and you just sit pretty for the full game. So those are alternatives that you have that we never really had like 10 years ago, but now with in-game wagering that is basically standard. It does present those opportunities, so you don't have to worry about getting off a team like the Patriots early in the game, even if they fall behind 10-0.
Yeah. Luke asking, any thoughts on the total for this game? Steelers Bears, which is around 45. I would think over is the way to go.
That would be my first preference. Let me see what my mathematical formula made it for this game.
Yeah,
so this is one where I compare teams and who they played. Actually, my model made the game pick'em, total of 52.
Okay, yeah, so that's definitely over by a touchdown there. So, yeah.
By the way, just to give you an idea about the power ratings, and I have the Texans rated so highly, on my linear regression model that includes home field advantage, I made the Texans 5. Mm-hmm. In the linear regression model without home field factored in, Texans 4.3. And in my comparative score analysis, who you play, when you play, and how you and what the level is, I still make the Texans a favorite by a field goal.
Okay.
So maybe when I said before I wouldn't be shocked, maybe I will put a little something on the Texans money line.
Okay. Yeah, it makes sense. Like I said, that Josh Allen almost lost to them last year, so he could, he did lose to them last year, so that could certainly happen again.
And I don't know what to make of their. We'll get to. We talked about Buffalo, I guess. Their win against Tampa Bay last week, because that was such a high-scoring back-and-forth type game for a good part of the game. Was that Tampa Bay getting healthy with their offense, or was it Buffalo really playing poorly with the defense?
Well, yeah, Tampa ran all over Buffalo with Sean Tucker, which is Buffalo's weakness all year is the run defense, because Matt Milano's not healthy, and they're still missing personnel on the defensive line. So until that's rectified, I feel like teams are still going to be able to run on Buffalo. I could see that being fixed by January, though, if Milano gets healthy and they get some personnel back. So you only have 3 hours.
But that won't help us this week. That won't help us tomorrow night.
Sure. Yeah, definitely not. Maybe after the mini bye, maybe.
Yeah.
All right. So next game was Jets at the Ravens. The Ravens are minus 13.5, and I was talking about how given that Baltimore is healthier now, they could maybe run the table. But some injuries are starting to pop up. Lamar Jackson was on the injury report last week, and he did not look healthy against the Browns. He ran twice.
Now, when he was on the injury report last week, did that have to do with limited practice?
I think so. I'd have to look. Actually, well, I can look in my Excel, luckily, for the injuries there. Actually, I could probably the team websites, they list previous injury reports, luckily. So
didn't you say the Ravens didn't have an injury report when we did this last week on Wednesday?
Yeah, maybe. But they do it posthumously. So like Lamar Jackson was DNP full with a knee. And now today he was DNP.
So he took off the first day of practice.
Yes. Like this week, he was DNP. So it's weird. He was DNP full with a knee last week, but now he has an ankle. He's DNP with an ankle this week. So I'm not sure.
So he went from did not practice to full practice, not limited practice.
Yes, DNP full. Yeah, and he did not have an injury designation. So that's why he wasn't on my Excel sheet. So, but he only ran twice in that Browns game. Like, when do you know Lamar Jackson's only run twice, especially against a tough defense where he's not?
Well, then they have unusual conditions in that game. Although I don't know it would have affected the running as much as the passing.
Yeah, in fact I think he would have ran more if it was.
It would have been the other way. Yeah.
Right. So I mean, he has to be at least banged up a little bit. But yeah, he's DNP today. So I mentioned the Ravens having some injuries here. We have Kyle Hamilton, DNP today. We have Roquan Smith, DNP today. Ronnie Stanley, DNP today with illness, though. I don't know how serious that is. Yeah. And then I guess that's about it. Marlon Humphrey is limited.
Well, what makes that difficult is because of what you mentioned last week, where Lamar went from did not practice to full practice, and who knows of the people who didn't practice? What is it today? How many of them will will practice fully tomorrow, limited, or be another DNP.
Right, exactly. It's early in the week, but I think the one takeaway we have now is that Lamar just didn't seem healthy last week. But
Yeah.
maybe he could be 100% by this Sunday. It's just never know. Maybe he'll be healthier to run maybe 8 times instead of 2. I don't know. So
And it may not matter. And it may not matter against the Jets.
Yeah, it may not matter. But I think if they're missing like the Roquan Smith and Ronnie Stanley and Kyle Hamilton, it may matter.
But the Jets still have to execute their plays on offense to take advantage.
Yeah,
and nothing suggests they can do that on a repeated basis, especially with Tyrod Taylor coming in.
That's true. Yeah, I mean Taylor is at least a better passer than Justin Fields, but it's only really by default.
I think you are also, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm definitely much better. So, no, with all these injuries, I'm inclined to side with the Jets here. But I don't know. I can't really bring myself to bet the Jets. Who do you like this game?
I like Baltimore here. In fact, that was one that I wrote of. I said Baltimore returns home following a 3-game road trip on which they won all 3 games to get to 5-5. This is the first of now a 3-game homestand, and the Ravens will be favored to win each game between now. I think I must have left out a line. But they'll be favored to win each game up until week 17, when they may be underdogs at Green Bay. I expect if things continue, even with New England, that when they play them in week 16 at home against the Patriots, that the Ravens would be favored there, especially if a playoff spot or division title is on the line for the Ravens, and New England may have already clinched the AFC East at that point. And sometimes these teams want to rest players. Maybe you want to rest them because you don't want the opposition who you figure to meet at some point in the playoffs to see it if the game doesn't really mean anything. Let's say New England's already sewed up the number 1 or locked into the number 2 or 3 spot there. Let's see. As with Kansas City, the Ravens are on the outside looking in with their current status. With Kansas City and Houston at 5-5, 1 game out of the number 3 wild card position. Okay, then this is important when you do handicapping over the next few weeks. Baltimore's season stats are still heavily influenced by the games without starting quarterback Jackson and a host of defensive injuries, and those stats will improve as more games are played and these players stay or become healthier. It's very likely very likely the Ravens may be underdogs only once during the remainder of the season at Green Bay in week 17. They trail Pittsburgh by a game in the AFC North, and they will face both the Steelers and the Bengals twice over the remaining 6 weeks of the season after this week's. Jets traded away a pair of their best defensive players and are short-handed on offense. Their 2 wins were over Cincinnati and Cleveland, followed by last Thursday's loss at New England. Ravens are at home for the first time since they were 1-5 before, defeating the Bears, which preceded that which began the 4-game winning streak, the last 3 of which were on the road. So I'm looking for the crowd to be a factor in this game. A highly revved up crowd to back the suddenly resurgent hosts, who should be at their best against this foe because they clearly outmatched that foe. And you're getting a little bit. Now, I don't know how much to say you can get of a value as a 13.5 point favorite. Certainly not based on the stats, because the stats would not suggest the line would be that high. The Jets have played some decent games and have some decent stats, but this line assumes that Baltimore is fully healthy, which they're not, and also that they can play at the level that we expected of them at the start of the season, which we knew that there were going to be some defensive deficiencies starting. So I still prefer Baltimore in this game because I don't think the Jets can trade points with them.
Okay, yeah.
I have it as a relatively confident play, but probably of all the games I really like and would be considered, this might be one of the weaker ones, but I did feel strong enough to write it up as a recommendation.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not. If you told me Lamar healthy, I would be all over the Ravens, but I don't know if I don't trust him if he only runs twice, So, but even still, he can still cover the spread here. It's the Jets are so bad. So,
this could almost be a game like Baltimore had against Miami. 28-6. And then or what New England had last week against the Jets, 27-14.
So yeah, exactly. Which would not cover this number, but still.
I have Baltimore winning this one 31-13.
Okay. Yeah, I can see it. I could definitely see, even if Lamar's not healthy, I could see it. But I just don't want to back an injured quarterback at minus 13.5.
Well, that's why we take a wait and see as far as the Thursday and Friday injury reports, practice reports are concerned.
Yeah, and you mentioned betting live. I think this is a good game to bet live. If you see Lamar running on the first drive,
yeah,
I think I would bet the Ravens instantly. So.
Yeah.
All right, let's get to the next game, which is Giants at the Lions. This line is Lions minus 10.5. I believe this was higher earlier. It was, or maybe not. Okay, maybe not. So we don't know Jackson Dart's status right now. The Giants are optimistic. Now, I've seen players and coaches be optimistic about player statuses before, and then the players don't play.
Well, why tip your hand? Why tip your hand to your opponent again? If there's doubt, leave that doubt in there. I personally would not start Jackson Dart coming off that concussion. Jameis Winston is a capable backup. I don't know that it matters against a team like Detroit, unless Campbell decides every time we're fourth in anything, we're going to go for it, even if it's from our own 15-yard line. That might be, again, we talked about it before we really got going, and that's, you live by the sword, you die with the sword, and sometimes you have to be careful when you use the sword.
Right, exactly. So, in this game, obviously, if Dart plays, we're going to get a lower number. If he's out, we're going to get a higher number. So, I guess place your bets right now.
It's interesting because I wonder what the line would do, because even if Dart starts, there may very well be a concern that he would have cleared concussion protocol.
Yeah,
but who's to say he takes his first good hit by the Detroit defense, and he's out.
Right.
Then you have to play with Jameis Winston, who is capable, but probably didn't take many won't take many first team reps if the Giants decide tomorrow that Dart's going to start. But they don't have to say anything until Friday.
Right. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I assume I thought it would go to like 9 or something, or 8.5 if Dart would start, and if he were not to start, I think it would go like 12.5 or something, or 13. That was my assumption, but it could be wrong. As far as this game is concerned, I like the Lions either way, and I like the Lions even more if Jameis Winston starts. Now, he's capable, but he had several dropped interceptions last week, and anytime you get a backup quarterback going against a top 10 defense, which the Lions are ranked very, very highly in defense, in EPA they're number 2 this season. So I think Jackson Dart. I think Jameis Winston really struggled here. I think he throws some interceptions, which we saw once last week. And I like that the Lions are coming off a loss. Dan Campbell off a loss is an incredible track record. So this is kind of like the marriage of spot versus matchup here. Now,
favorable spot versus negative spot.
Yeah. So if it's Jackson Dart, obviously the better quarterback, but we're going to get a favorable number, more so than this one. And quarterbacks coming off the first game from concussions don't always do very well. If their brains are scrambled, they're not going to see the field, and Dart's been, it's not,
or they're going to see 2 fields, which is even worse.
Right. I mean, Dart's, he's had only 1 concussion, but he was checked out for 4 of them.
Yeah.
4 potential ones. So, I'm not convinced that he's going to have a good game if he returns, especially against this number 2 defense. So, and also given that he has no one at his disposal, there's no Darius Slayton even, or we don't think so, because he missed practice again. He missed last week's game.
And they're already missing their best receiver for the season.
Right. So,
and arguably their best running back, even though he's a rookie.
Yeah, it's going to be Isaiah Hodgins again, and Wan'Dale Robinson. Like, these guys are not good. So yeah, the lines look great to me.
Robinson, I think, is okay.
Yeah, look, I mean, he's an intermediate guy, but he's not gonna beat anyone deep. So like, the guys that you want to beat deep, the guys
he's good in a ball control offense.
Yeah. So we're looking to Isaiah Hodgins as guys that are going to go deep, and it's Jalen Hyatt. These guys are not good. So I like the Lions either way. I like the Lions more so with Winston, but I still like the Lions if Dart stars. How do you feel about this game?
Yeah, I have all my lines have the Lions anywhere from actually 11 to 16 and a half.
Okay.
So yeah, I can tell you, by the way, just in case for the folks out there who follow this or maybe part of the Super Contest or maybe the Circa Millions contest, Texans in the contest +6 against the Bills, Steelers +2.5. So I probably won't play them in the contest. Jets +13.5 against the Ravens, and the Giants are +10 against the Lions. And I'll give these out as we go along the rest of the way.
Okay. Sounds good. So yeah. What's your level of confidence here on Detroit?
I'd say between a 3 and 4 out of 5.
Okay.
So that would put it at roughly 70%.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I like it. I like that we're on the same side as because I know we're on opposite sides in the next game. Although we'll see what happens with the quarterback situation. So, as I said, when I was kind of previewing the show, we had injury updates. We had some news that was going to affect some of these games here, and here it is. Joe Burrow was a full participant in practice on Wednesday. That's a big deal. Like if he was limited, full, like I'd be like, okay, he's going to sit out, but he was full today. We'll see what happens on Thursday. If he regresses to limited, I'll be more pessimistic about him playing. But it's
by the way, the other thought could be, and I don't know, and this is what kind of makes sense, is that the Bengals could activate him and make him the number 2 quarterback, knowing that if Flacco struggles, Burrow's ready to go in there.
Well, I think another thing to consider is that Flacco was more limited in practice than Burrow today. Flacco was limited with the shoulder. Like his shoulder is not healthy. We saw that in the Pittsburgh game. Like he had a great matchup and he couldn't take advantage of it. In fact, he threw that ugly pick six. It was 13-9 in the third quarter. Threw a pick six and the game was over because he just couldn't move the ball. And now if Flacco starts this game and doesn't have Jamar Chase and has a bum shoulder, I don't see how the Bengals move the ball against the Patriots. Patriots have a top 10 defense.
And and the running game. Yeah, the running game. Yeah.
Right. Patriots are 9th in defense. So they'll have enough to contain Cincinnati with no Chase and an injured Flacco. But if this is Burrow, I feel like this would be a free square in the Super Contest and maybe the Circa Millions because what's this line if Burrow starts?
The line in this game is 7. Patriots by 7.
So what would the line be in real life if Burrow is announced as the starter here?
Are
the Bengals favored?
No.
You don't think so?
Bengals wouldn't be favored under any circumstance. No, because
Burrow
doesn't get to spend 60 minutes on the field. He has to make way for the defense after a score or a punt or a turnover.
Well, you never know.
I would say it would go down to 5.
Really? Okay. I would like the Bengals a lot at +5 with Burrow. But no,
you remember everything you said before about the great Patriots defense going up against the Bengals offense, and then the Bengals defense going up against the Patriots offense and Drake May. So I think Burrow being in there helps, but I don't know if it justifies that large of an adjustment in the line, given the fact that the defense has so many issues, and they're going up against a very well coached team.
Yeah, and they have more issues than usual because Trey Hendrickson may not play again. He was DNP, and I believe I saw that they consider him doubtful for this game. So I mean, they already suck defensively without with Henderson, and there's so much worse without him. So that's part of the reasons why I love New England with Flacco in here. But if it's Burrow at +5, I don't think the Patriots should be above 3 with Burrow on the field. Just because he's that good, he could easily get a backdoor cover with at +5.
Yeah, but remember, he's also rusty, and number 2, it's really easy to hurt that toe again.
He could, yeah.
Is that on his plant foot? Is there a toe on his plant foot?
I don't know. I don't know if it is or not, but Either way, look, if he's
because that's if it's his non-plant foot, that's a lot easier to overcome. But if it's your plant foot, you're not thinking about your toe injury. You're just doing what comes instinctively and putting a lot of pressure on the toe before you release the ball.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fair. So yeah, anyway, it really depends on what happens with Burrow. We have to see later on in the week. I'm hoping Flacco starts again one last time, just because I think this is a great matchup for the Patriots. Not necessarily a great spot, but as we detailed earlier, they don't really have anything to look ahead to. I don't know if they're looking back for the Jets win. Like, that doesn't really make much sense to me. So so Patriots for me if Flacco starts, and we'll see what the line is if Burrow starts. So what do you think about this game? I mean,
I kind of like the spot for. I like the spot for Cincinnati. I mean, at some point, it's not quite the same as the Bears, because the Bears I don't think are as talented, especially defensively, as the Patriots. But at some point, the pressure gets to you as far as winning. They are at Cincinnati, coming off of that with the extra rest with the Jets. I could see this being a game. I could see this being a like a 24-20 type game. Of course, that's assuming that you can't score more than 24 against that Cincinnati defense, which is hard to fathom. But it's more a situational play than anything else. It's at some point the Patriots, they're starting to lay decent-sized numbers, which to me is anything more than a field goal on the road. And again, remember that they've had so much of their success against weak teams. And again, you can only beat the teams in front of you. They do have that nice win at they had the one at Tampa Bay and the one at Buffalo before then, so they've shown what they can do. Nonetheless, it's still asking a lot of the Patriots to go out and win when they're expected to. Although, again, laying 7 against the Bengals is not like still laying 7 against the Browns.
Yeah, I mean, I guess. So, in what way? What do you mean?
Well, I mean that laying 7 against the Bengals is easier than laying 7 against the Browns, because the Browns will put up a fight defensively. I don't know that I don't know that Cincinnati will be able to do much. So meaning that it's more you're more likely for the Bengals to lose in a rout to the Patriots than you are for the Bengals to lose in a rout to the Browns.
Yeah, I guess I could see that. Although if the Bengals have a healthy quarterback, then they could always get the backdoor cover. But yeah, I do like the Patriots here with the Bengals. Cassandra, I was actually thinking about your situation here.
Yeah. By the way, this is just a lean for me on Cincinnati.
Just lean. Okay. Yeah, I love the Patriots if it's Flacco, considering that he's injured. Cassandra, I was thinking about this more, and I think it makes sense to just buy out of this bet right now. And if Flacco's announced as the starter, then just rebet it. I guess you lose the vig, which kind of sucks, but I think that's what I would do, because I'd really be worried about Burrow there. But if Burrow's announced as a starter, then you don't have to worry about having a bad number. So you could still bet the Patriots if you wanted to, or just lay off the game. So I think that's what I would do at the moment. But yeah, it's a rough spot. So
that's where I said live betting comes into play here also.
Yeah. That's true. Yeah. Okay. So that was interesting game there. We will know later in the week. But like I said, it's funny that Burrow was more involved in practice than Flacco. like Burrow's healthier than Flacco apparently. It seems like Burrow has a decent chance to start this week, which is why I picked him up in a couple of best ball drafts this week. All right, so next game is Seahawks at Titans. This line, Seahawks minus 13.5. And I actually think this line is low. I said any line that's under 14 is too low. I actually made this line 14.5. My computer model that I use made it, I believe, 15 or 15.5. So
I've made it anywhere from 14.5 to 18 to 19 to 19.9 to 20.
Yeah, that makes sense, because
the only question is, these are numbers, and these numbers don't know that Seattle's coming off of a tough loss last week where they outplayed the Rams to a great extent. Will they be as motivated, as excited going up against Tennessee, where it might take 13 points it would be enough to win?
I would think coming off a loss, they have to keep pace with the Rams in the division, and
but it's one thing to win a game by more than 13 or just win it by 7.
Yeah, But I'm just saying that if the Seahawks had won, I would like this spot a lot less for them than had they, given that they lost. I like it more now because they're coming off a loss, and
Yeah.
they'll be wanting to rebound rather than if they won, they celebrated too much. Maybe they'd be a little aloof in this game. So I like this spot.
Well, they might also be a little bit aloof, saying, "Oh, we're playing the Titans, who should be winless."
I mean, yeah, but they're coming off a loss.
It's on the road. Yeah, but it's on the road.
Road, I think, is more favorable.
It is for Seattle as far as how they play, but I mean, to lay a big number on the road, 13 is still a big number on the road.
It's not. I don't think it's too bad. So I actually looked up how teams have done as road favorites of more than 13. Since I always like to use 2010 onward because the bad teams have gotten much worse. Is after the lockout, as I always say,
lack of practice time, and in the case of Cincinnati, lack of scouts.
Yep, that's certainly true. Well, this can't be right. I typed in road favorites of more than 13 since 2010, and it gave me 153 results. I'm like, that can't be right. How's that possible?
Maybe it was one plug greater than 1.3 or something.
No, I typed it into NBA.
Oh, okay.
not NFL. So anyway, road favorites of 13.
By the way, what site is that?
Killersports.com.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll I could pull it up here and make it live so you see you guys can see what I'm doing here. Okay, so yeah, see, it's defaults NBA for some reason. I will type in what I have here. So A is away, season greater than 2009, and then line is less than minus 12.5. So I will run the query, and it says 13 and 14 against the spread. So about 500.
What's the straight up record, which should be huge?
22 and 7.
I thought it would have been greater than that. Well, these are road favorites. Okay.
Road favorites of 13 or more.
Yeah, I still would have thought out of 29, it'd probably be more like 20, 22 or something.
Yeah, and as you can see on the screen here, they've covered the last 4. The last time one of these big road favorites hasn't covered was week 15 of 2022. It was the Chiefs-Texans game. But, last year there was only one instance of this. The Ravens were minus 16.5 against the Giants, and they won 35-14. So given that this is about 500, I think, like, you see a big road favorite, I'm like, it doesn't really bother me. So, you have to ask yourself.
When you start seeing a road favorite in that range, you almost wonder that, well, the lines maker probably, if it was making a true line, might have made it 15 or 16.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, that's true. So yeah, I'm not worried about this. You have to ask yourself, do the Seahawks deserve to be favored by that number over Tennessee, and will they be focused? And I think they will be focused. Obviously, that's it's tough to handicap because we're not in the locker room, but coming off a loss, I think they're more likely to be focused than if they were coming off a win. And then matchup wise, obviously Seattle, arguably a top 3 team in the NFL. You have them number 2 in your power rankings. I think justified now after last week. And then the Titans are easily the worst team in the NFL. And I think that there are some great matchups here. For one, you have Cam Ward, who holds on to the ball forever. Seattle has the second most pressures in the NFL, so they're going to make his life miserable. They're going to be a lot of sacks, going to lead the fumbles and such. And then when Seattle has the ball, Tennessee can't stop anyone. Jeffrey Simmons is on the injury report again. He was DNP today. So if he's not healthy, Tennessee's defense is going to be even worse than usual. So I like Seattle a lot, despite the high number, quote unquote high number. I don't think it's high enough. So what do you think about this game?
By the way, let me just go back to the New England-Cincinnati game because I didn't get a chance to mention it before. Okay. After playing the New York Jets, which applies to Cincinnati, which applies to New England. New England played the Jets last on that Thursday game. After playing the Jets, teams are 2-7 straight up, 1-8, 2-7 play because you're laughing so much after the Jets game that takes you 3 or 4 days to regain. 1-8 against the spread. More importantly, 9-0 to the over.
Oh wow! Okay.
So I do like that New England Cincinnati game over. So okay. I mentioned that. As far as Seattle, I have this one down as a lean only, siding with Seattle.
Okay.
Why
only lean?
they may not be able to help because it's a big number on the road.
Okay.
You know,
does my
Tennessee
stats here
has played a
make
little.
you feel? Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, let me see it because I think I had another stat here which surprised me. And yeah, this is it. Because another thing I keep track of: average margins of wins, average margins of losses, average margins of covers, average margin in non-covers or ATS losses, average margin in overs when they play overs, and average margin when games stay under. And I have for the Tennessee Titans their average margin of loss, and this surprised me because I thought it would be much higher, 14.9.
Okay. Yeah. They're awful. They're absolutely awful.
Of course, their average margin in win is 1.0. That's that game against Arizona.
Of course.
Seattle's average margin in their wins is slightly more than 13.5, but not enough to give you a great deal of confidence. 15.7.
But do my numbers make you feel better? This is about 500.
It's a small number of samples that you say have only occurred, maybe half a dozen times in the last 6 years?
Oh, well, since 2010, it's occurred 29 times. It's not too bad.
So that's 1.5. That's 1.5 times a season.
Yeah, I mean, it's not something that's going to happen too often, but I think it makes sense. I mean, we both said we thought this number should be high.
What did you say? Yeah, well, from a number standpoint, and then of course you get into the intangibles, the non-statistical, the non-metric factors that surround the game when you're deciding, do you want to bet it at the number, or is that number, or should that number be adjusted? But if you go under the assumption, which is not really a great assumption, but it's simple to understand, that the line is an approximation of what the odds makers think the game should be. Okay, that what the results should be. And if you think that, in other words, that if this line is 13.5, you would expect Seattle to play the game very close to win by 13.5. Okay, but then when you start figuring the intangibles like favorable spots, second game of road trips, third game of road trips, you adjust it and say they are either less likely or more likely to play to the level of a 13.5 point favorite.
Right.
So
right.
The fact that they win by an average of 15.7 and the fact that Tennessee loses by an average of 14.6, and they've had a lot of experience losing, they've lost 9 times, and that number of 14.6 says, and remember, that average margins of losses are generally greater, are actually, when you take out the extreme losses, that number comes down quite a bit because there's an unlimited number by which you can lose. Okay? Yeah. So, when you lose 42-13 or something, that contributes a lot to that 14.6 average loss. Now, if you take out a 35-point loss, that 14.6 now goes in their other 8 losses, whatever the number might be. Instead of 14.6, it'd be minus 10.8 or something.
Yeah. And I think you also have to look at the level of competition here as well.
Yeah.
And funny enough, this is the first time the Titans are playing a Group A team all year.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, sorry, except for the Rams in week 2. That's about it. Yeah, but they lost by 21 to the Colts. They lost by 18 to the Patriots.
Well, I'd have to say, regardless of how you rate them subjectively, yeah, I think you have to put the Colts in the A category for purposes of analyzing stats. Because when you're winning 9 out of 11 games, you're a good team because you're going to play varying levels of competition.
Yeah, I don't know if I completely trust them enough to put them in the same category as the Rams.
It's not a question of trust. You can only go on performance. And when you're winning games by 20, 25 points, okay, so instead of winning by 20, 25 points against a better team, you win by 14-18.
Yeah, but I mean, the past 2 games they lost to the Steelers and they barely beat the Falcons. They had a good overtime to do that. So recently,
well, that game was in Europe, so that's a little different thing. And the game, look, and you can't expect a team, no team goes undefeated. No team, very few teams will lose only twice during the season. So you had to expect Indianapolis is going to throw a clunker in there at some point. Now, we don't know how they respond to, they responded to the clunker with the what was it? The loss to Atlanta in Europe, I think it was, right?
But yeah, it went to overtime. So yeah,
Yeah.
and then they're bye. So we haven't seen them since.
No, but we saw them play the loss to the that game to Pittsburgh where they lost all those turnovers.
Yeah,
that was preceding the Atlanta game, correct?
right. Yes. Yeah. Right
So
before.
so they did play better against Atlanta than they did against Pittsburgh. And what were they favored? 6.5 in that game, or was it less than that? I think it was less than that.
That game was
The neutral site game.
it was 6.5.
Okay.
So,
Yeah. So they played competitively. Yeah. Well, actually, I think it was 5.5 a lot of places because that touchdown in the overtime allowed a lot of people to cash on that Taylor touchdown run. So
yeah.
but at any point, yeah. But
yeah,
basically it was an even game. When you go to overtime, you almost have to look at that as a dead even game, even though it may or may not be decided by a score in overtime. Basically, you played the full 60 minutes, what you're required to play, and you basically played even.
Right. Yeah. Right. Exactly.
At least on the scoreboard. Now, I happen to like Seattle in this game, but it's just an opinion. And again, as I said, because it's a big number.
Kevin Kovac, $5 super chat. Thank you so much, Kevin. He agrees with the spot here. Mike McDonald seems serious too. He's proving himself a detailed coach. I think he'll have his team prepared to bounce back strong. Yeah, I
wouldn't mind it if the line was 7.5 or 8.
Oh yeah, I mean that would be much better. But I still we both said we think the line is low. We think it should be higher.
Well, from a number standpoint.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
But if we think the number should be higher, and the lines maker is making it a touchdown or 4 points less than what we think it should be, that should tell us something.
Yeah. What does it tell us though?
Maybe it tells us that our numbers are not good numbers for a betting standpoint, or we'd be closer to what the lines maker is at.
Maybe. Or they could just be wrong too. So they posted some incorrect.
Or we could just be wrong.
Yeah, I guess I just don't see.
And we also have some incorrect lines. I'm not to bring it up, but I mean, if you like Cincinnati last week, that was a bad line.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we can make mistakes in our numbers, just like lines maker make a mistake in their numbers, and actually, neither of us are making mistakes because we're basing it on whatever factors I use or you use and the lines maker uses. The point is, these teams do not play to their typical game. They either exceed it or fall short of it. We don't know when it's going to occur. For all we know, this may be the game that the Titans pull out a victory, much like Arizona did, much like the Titans did against Arizona. Much like they did. Unlikely, but it's not impossible. I wouldn't bet on it. Maybe I would. Maybe I would take plus 1,500 on the money line.
I don't. Yeah. I mean,
if I found $100 bill on the street, I might put 50 of it on the Titans money line.
Would you really do that?
Well, I'd still be $50 ahead.
That's true. Or I don't know. I feel like you could find some better bets than that one. I mean, like what are the Bengals on the money line? You like them? I feel like that would be a better bet on the money line. The odds are obviously.
Well, the odds would be much less, yeah.
But you'd have a much better chance of winning that one. So what are the Bengals? They are plus 280. So you can.
That seems very short for a 7-point home underdog.
It does, right? I would have guessed like plus 350 or something, or something. Yeah, that's kind of weird. Yeah, Kevin, thank you so much for this once again for the super chat. The Seahawks already lost their center. The fact that Zabel's only questionable is a great sign. Their center's not that good though. You know what I mean? Like if it was a really good player, I'd be worried. But he's a replaceable guy. Zabel. We'll see if he plays. Titans under 10.5 points. Team total is plus 140 at DraftKings. That worries me a bit because like Tennessee could just get a garbage time touchdown and go over. I don't like that one.
Yeah, but you know something, when teams relax and they let up a little bit, it's usually the offenses that relax a little bit. They don't go for the jugular as much. Yeah, defense, I think, always plays hard in most situations.
That's true.
So Tennessee might not be able to come from behind.
Yeah, to bet Seahawks to cover, they better have Zabel. He might be their Joe Alt. Their tackles have been really good, though. Both tackles are healthy. Now, missing 2 interior linemen is not ideal, but I think I think I'd still be okay with it. Like Tennessee. You have to remember Tennessee gets no pressure on the quarterback.
Yeah.
And they might be without Simmons again because he was DNP today. So it may not even matter. Me and Walt beat Vegas all the time. I wish this all the time, but yeah. Hopefully we get there one day. Anyway, let's get to the next game, which is Vikings at the Packers. The Packers are favored by 6.5. There's a rogue six.
What's the quarterback situation with Minnesota?
Do they want to I don't know, put this guy out to pasture already? Like, what do you mean? He's McCarthy is he's not on the injury report, but he's pretty brutal, and might be Max Brosmer taking his spot. I don't know. It's kind of wild that Carson.
I want to play Minnesota in this game.
You do.
More so again, it's against the Packers.
I agree. We're on the same side.
Because I think, with the exception of quarterback, the Vikings have, I think, a healthier, or certainly, I would say, the better overall roster, with the exception of quarterback.
Minnesota's a better overall roster.
What's the exception of quarterback in this game?
If Josh Jacobs is out, certainly they have the lead running back. I think Minnesota.
They've already lost a tight end.
Yeah, Minnesota definitely is the better receivers. And then offensive line.
I could argue the better defense.
Yeah.
Where do they rank? Where do these teams rank defensively by your DVOAs?
Let's look.
Or EVs, whichever one you use.
EPA, yeah. EPA. Green Bay is 14th, and Minnesota is 17th.
Okay,
but,
not much.
But remember, that Minnesota 17 is with a number of games missed by Van Ginkel and Blake Cashman.
Yeah.
So, and those guys are huge. And obviously the Packers have had some injuries, but like those guys being out is such a big deal, especially Van Ginkel. So
yeah, see, when I look at the yardage numbers, the conventional numbers, Minnesota number 10, Green Bay number 6, with a difference of 26 yards per game, but that also may be related to number of plays that they're on the field for.
Mm-hmm.
Green Bay does not turn the football over, and Minnesota does not create turnovers, and Minnesota does turn the ball over, and a lot of that, of course, was Wentz and McCarthy. But Green Bay does not force a lot of. In fact, both Minnesota and Green Bay are recovering 0.8 turnovers per game.
Yeah.
Minnesota Green Bay has a slightly better running game and a much better rushing defense. Green Bay has a better passing offense, and the teams are about even in passing defense. So actually, I'd say Green Bay overall has the better numbers, but there's just something not right with this team right now.
Yeah, I agree. They're not winning by margin. They look underwhelming, and I think you're right in your assessment that Minnesota has the better overall roster. If obviously, the elephant in the room is JJ McCarthy. Like,
yeah,
it's so difficult to bet him because he is so bad. I don't.
Well, by the way, let me tell you, Minnesota's average losses this year in their 6 losses is minus 10.3 per game.
Okay.
Which is probably about average, probably middle of the pack.
Yeah. It's so hard to back him because he's so bad. But here's, if you like Minnesota, and you just said you do, here's something to make you feel more confident about it. And it might be because Jordan Love may not play well either in this game. In 2 games last year against Minnesota, Jordan Love has really struggled. Now, if you look at the stats, the first game, it shows he threw like 4 touchdowns and 3 interceptions, but he was way down in the game. The Vikings were down, I believe, like 3 or 4 touchdowns. It was like 28-0 or something. And like,
so that was one of their 3 losses.
They suffered 2 losses to Green Bay. No, sorry. Green Bay lost twice to Minnesota. Sorry.
Oh, okay. The other way around. Yeah.
Yeah. So Jordan Love was way down, and he mounted a comeback, but it was mostly garbage time. So, And then the second game was in Minnesota, and Jordan Love, he was constantly throwing off his back foot. He looked like a mess. He was just absolutely horrible in that game. So Love has struggled against Brian Flores' defense. So if that could,
to me, that's the key.
Yeah, that
Flores.
could make you feel better with backing JJ McCarthy, and that would be that Love wouldn't be playing well either in this game. So I'm on board with
Well,
you.
look,
Yeah,
Flores and the defense kept them in the game against the Bears.
they did. Yeah. And so yeah, I agree with the Minnesota's side. Also, Green Bay, they play on Thanksgiving against Detroit. You know, they might have one eye on that game, given it's 4 days later.
Well, Detroit's actually the team that would have more likely have one eye on the game because it's a revenge game. It's being played in Detroit.
Yeah, but they're coming off a loss though. Like Green Bay is coming off a win. You know, I feel like so that was my assessment there. But so
well, also the Lions have a much easier opponent than the Packers do this week.
Yeah. So do you want to talk about more why you like Minnesota?
Let me see. Why did I like it? Did I put Minnesota in there?
Oh, I thought you.
No, it was just a lean in that one, simply because I thought the line is a little bit higher than perhaps it should be.
What would you have this line?
I would have made the line about 4.5, 5, maybe 4.5, perhaps.
I think that's exactly I think 4.5 makes a lot of sense.
Now when I look at my numbers across the board, I have Packers 5.1, 6.6, 9, and 9.5.
Okay.
So I could make a case for Green Bay based strictly on the numbers, but when I put the numbers outside of it and I look at the other factors that we've talked about, seems to be a good spot for the Vikings. And Green Bay still isn't playing well.
No, they're not. They've been underwhelming, especially
they easily could have lost to the Giants.
They could have. Maybe if they didn't drop all those interceptions that they could. Or they dropped so many passes in the game. Not just they dropped several interceptions and they dropped a lot of passes.
But that's all part of it, and that may say something about the quality of their defensive players as far as interceptions.
Yeah, no, I mean, yeah, they don't.
And their ability to catch the ball.
Takeaways. Yeah, they don't get takeaways. So yeah,
no, what I mentioned. What was the number I mentioned? They had. I think I said Green Bay has. Well, both teams have just had 8 takeaways this season.
Yeah, which you would have thought. I'm both more.
But, I would have thought Minnesota would have had more than 8.
Yeah, like I said, no Van Ginkel for a long time. You know that you can at least explain that. But the Packers, once they got Parsons, you would have thought that they would be among the league leaders in that, and they just haven't been. So, it feels like Parsons is obviously he's playing great this year, but no one else is really on Green Bay's defense is really just being dominant.
Yeah.
Xavier McKinney's playing really well, but Edgerrin Cooper, although he missed a really bad tackle last week, but outside of those three, like they're just not playing well at all. So I'm on board with you with this one. The boss says, shout out to Charlie for Carson swatching for the defensive rookie of the year favorite. How do we hedge? PFF not rating him favorably. He is what is the I don't know what the odds would be at this point with the defensive rookie of the year. I'm trying to hedge Emeka Egbuka offensive rookie of the year because I have him at 40-1. Now I already did hedge a little bit with Jackson.
But it's tough to hedge when you can't play the field against a specific player.
Yeah, but I feel like there are only a certain number of players who can win.
But you could hedge and be wrong on all of them because there are so many candidates, and it changes week by week depending upon the performance.
For offensive rookie of the year, I feel like there are only 4, maybe 5 candidates at this point.
I don't look at it that closely, but we still have almost half a season to go.
Yeah, but who else could it be outside of? I'd say
I don't know. I don't follow because I don't play fantasy.
Right, but
so I don't follow the specific players to that degree.
Well,
point is, if you're going to hedge, you probably have to take a favorite, and probably more than one.
Well, so I'll put this up. I know that
now at 40-1 odds, you do have some leeway, but once you start hedging, those 40-1 odds become 20-1, become 15-1, whatever it is.
Yeah, I'm comfortable with it going down to 30-1, at this point. But so I did hedge a little bit here. You can see on the screen. So Egbuka here, he was 40-1. I have a hedge on Jackson Dart, a little bit of a hedge. Might want to do a little bit more if he's announced as active this week. There's Tedero McMillan. I do not have a hedge on him. So that worries me because he just had a big game.
Henderson is what, 18? Is that 15 to 1?
15 to 1. I have a very small.
I was going to
hedge
say
on
that
thing.
might be a little bit of a hedge, especially if the Patriots go on to win the AFC East and end up to have 12, 13 wins, and they do a lot of it. That giving Henderson the Rookie of the Year is kind of like a secondary tribute to Drake May for leading the Patriots offense.
Yeah, so I put I put $20 on this, with Henderson to pay out 300, and I put a little bit on Tyler Warren. I don't think he's going to win. I don't think they're going to give it to tight end unless he has like a dominant final 7 weeks, which could happen. So, like I said, I have hedges here, and here.
Why wouldn't they give it to a tight end? Because another factor you look at with tight ends is their blocking ability.
Yeah, I know. It feels like the other receivers have just really surpassed them in stats. And if you look at like the past few years, it's just haven't given it. I don't know. It feels like
who won it last year? Did Brock Bowers win it last year?
Who was it last year? It was Jane Daniels.
When did Brock Bowers? Was that offensive player or offensive rookie you're looking at?
Offensive rookie.
Yeah, who won it last year? Was it Bowers?
No, Jane Daniels.
Or Daniels?
Okay. Yeah, Jane Daniels. Yeah. So, yeah, I don't know. So, like I said, this is my plan was to hedge this way, and then McMillan. But so if you include McMillan, like who else could come up here? I don't see like Judkins is not going to do it. Like Genty's not going to do it. These guys are way too far behind. So I feel like I'm kind of safe. If I just hedge McMillan, like it'll be fine. And to answer the question we had about Schlesinger, he's currently minus 230 here to win Defensive Rookie of the Year. But I think hedging Defensive Rookie of the Year is a lot harder than hedging Offensive Rookie of the Year because you don't really have all the stats here for defense. Like offensive rookie is so contingent on stats, whereas like defense is not really. So I feel like Schlesinger has had such a great year that I think. If he doesn't win, it's because he gets hurt. But if he gets hurt, then the odds are going to be aren't going to be as good. So you could like spray a little bit here and there, but it's just so much more difficult to do it here. I would say like if someone beats him out for a defensive rookie of the year, it would be someone like an edge rusher who gets like 1 million sacks in the final 6 or 7 games. So if you want to do a little bit on Jalen Walker and Donovan Izaraku and Abdul Carter, I guess I think that's where I'll go. But like I said, it's so difficult to hedge here, Kimmy says the reason it's so hard to bet the NFL is because you get Minnesota winning in Detroit and then puking all over themselves at home against the Bears. Right. Yeah. Minnesota goes in Detroit, wins, and then they can't beat the Bears at home. Yeah, I know. Detroit did lose 3 offensive linemen in that game, but I do get what you're saying. It's really tough.
Yeah, but McCarthy put up points in that game against Detroit.
Yeah. He did. He looked decent.
And then he played a much weaker defense in Chicago.
Yeah, right. And then he couldn't score points. So that's.
But that is the NFL, week to week.
It is. It's matchup based. It's spot
and
based.
Sometimes matchups you have an advantage, and you still lose.
Yep. Yeah. There's a lot to it. Spots and
the ball bounces funny.
Yep. That's 100%.
I'd like to see in how many games, and you could probably do the research. What is the record of favorites in games in which there are no turnovers by either side? Meaning that was effectively a clean game. You would think the better team should have a healthy winning percentage.
You would think so. I don't know.
I could actually do some research on that because I have data going back 40 years. I can certainly go back to 2010. I could go back to 2002 when they changed the division alignment.
I could just tell you right now. Favorites who have no turnovers and the opponent had no turnovers.
Correct. Not an equal amount of turnovers. No turnovers at all.
No turnovers for either team.
Yeah, that team.
So this is dating back to 1989.
That's fine.
So teams straight up are favorites straight up are 251 and 113.
That's better than 2 to 1. Okay.
Yeah. However, against the spread, they are 165 and 191 against the spread. So 46.
Okay, so they're still a loser. Okay.
Yeah, and the average line is 5.8, which is, I guess, the average line for any favorite, for favorites in these games, 5.8. And the what's the average score? Did they tell us? I don't think so. They used to tell average scores, but here we go. The average scores in this games are 24.1 to 18.6.
That's about the same as what did you say? 5.5, 24.1, 18.6 is 5.5, isn't it?
Yeah. The average line is 5.8. So that would explain why it's 46.7 against the spread. So yeah, there you go. Yeah, these teams win, but cover about 47% of the time.
Yeah. Well, that just tells you that even if you have a turnover-free game, these games still don't they don't play out according to form, because you would think. Now, of course, it could be what are okay? Maybe you could do this one. How about favorites of more than 4 points in games in which there are no turnovers?
Okay.
In other words, so you're not laying like 13.5 in a game that's turnover free. I'm sorry, you're not laying 2.5 in a game where it's turnover free. You want a larger, a more convincing favorite, how they do straight up and against the spread.
Yeah, so favorites of 4 or more where there are no turnovers on either side. Straight up, they are 175 and 50. That's 77.
About 3 to 1, yeah.
Yeah, 77.8%. Against the spread, 112 and 109. That's 50.
Break even. Well, that's losing, but it's basically 50-50, yeah.
Yeah, 50.7%, yeah.
Yeah.
So.
We better pick up the speed a little bit here. We've only gotten through what 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 games, 7 games.
Yeah. Lots of stuff to talk about.
I can't do 4 hours tonight.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, it was pretty rough because I still had work to do. Are you guys betting Vikings plus 6.5? I might. I don't know. Are you betting it? You said lean, right?
I'm leaning that way. I have it circled as a potential play.
Yeah. Looks very interesting in the next game, so let's get to it. Except for, hold on, one question: do you like Kyle Pitts or Jawan Johnson the rest of the season? I think without Drake London, I think I would lean toward Kyle Pitts. I think it's close. Keep in mind, Pitts. I've always bring this up. Pitts has an amazing.
Well, the question is, do dropped passes count?
Luckily, you don't get penalized for that in fantasy. Well, Kyle Pitts, I keep saying this. Kyle Pitts has an amazing fantasy matchup in the playoffs. He plays the Buccaneers, I believe, in Week 14, and it could be I think it's Week 15. And Kyle Pitts always dominates Tampa Bay. I don't know why. Every game, he just crushes them. So if you have Pitts for the games that
probably
matter,
the defensive scheme that the Bucs use.
Yeah, it's So just keep that in mind. So I think Pitts by a hair. It's very close though. All right, let's get to the next one, which is the last of the 1 o'clock games. Colts at the Chiefs. This line is
Chiefs.
This
next one. Yeah, that's a no-brainer. That's a no-brainer for me. This game.
Okay, I think I know where you're going. We'll see. Just based on how long I've known you and how your handicap style is. I think. Well, first of all, I thought it was funny. I listen to random football podcasts when I'm walking my dogs or I'm driving to pick up my son from daycare. And everyone I heard this week is like, I can't believe the Chiefs are favored of the Colts. How could the Chiefs be favored? They're 5-5. The Colts are 8-2. It doesn't make any sense.
That tells you all you need to know about the general betting public.
Yes, absolutely. There's the same breakdown when we had Chiefs Lions earlier, and everyone was like, "I can't believe the Lions are underdogs," and we saw what happened. Look, I'd be shocked if you don't like the Chiefs, and I like the Chiefs too. There's
really not much to. There's really not much to say because their season somewhat rests on this game, and then we'll say that again the next week. As long as they are 5-5 or 6-5 or even 7-5, every game becomes important. It's extremely remotely possible that the Chiefs win the AFC West. Making the playoffs is still going to be a challenge because there's so many good teams in the AFC that could challenge. But if there's a team that can do it, it's the Kansas City Chiefs. Now all you've heard all week or will be hearing all week, well, they've never lost 3 in a row with Patrick Mahomes at quarterback. Well, that's true, but I don't think that's why they're going to win this game. I think they're going to win this game because they have the pedigree. And the fact that they've lost 2 in a row just means we should expect a much better effort against an Indianapolis team that I still have great respect for. I still rate highly. The Colts are playing the Chiefs at the wrong time.
Yeah, it's a rough spot
And,
here.
and we've seen the Chiefs play their game when they have been able to win by big margins this year, unlike last year.
Yeah. So they were 5-1 after the first 2 games, and then they lost 2 in a row. But like losing to the Bills and then Denver is like there's nothing wrong with that. And
no,
I think the Chiefs can certainly get back to what they
and
were
as much as I like
before.
Indianapolis, I do not have them rated ahead of either Denver or Buffalo.
Yeah, I think I actually have Indy ahead of Denver, but I definitely don't have them ahead of Buffalo. So, and
why do you have them rated? Why do you have them rated ahead of Denver? And forget about the fact that they played a 1-point game that each team won at 1 point at the end of that game.
I don't like Bo Nix. I think that
they're not winning because of offense.
Yeah, but
Denver.
They're going to need some quarterback in the playoffs at some point.
Yeah. Well, we're not talking about rating them in the playoffs. We're talking about rating them now.
Yeah, and like I'm old enough to remember 13-11 against the Jets and 19-0 trailing against the Giants.
Yeah.
And
what happened? They won those games.
Yeah.
Now it is the Jets.
Team.
Now it is the Jets and the Giants, but they're still wins.
Yeah, or it's Titans trailing against the Titans in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, man. I just don't trust this Denver team. I think they're one and done in the playoffs. But anyway, I do trust the Colts more, Jonathan Taylor and such. But the Colts got Sauce Gardner. But anyway, I think Chiefs. If Mahomes starts running again, and like he was doing that a lot, and when they went 5-1 in those 6 games, like he ran once against Buffalo, once against Denver. I don't know why. Like I think they'll figure that out. Like, and then they'll run more. I don't know. And
well, if they didn't figure it out against Buffalo, what made you think they were going to figure it out against Denver?
Well, they were.
Denver's a much better defensive team than Buffalo.
Yeah. But it's like you can surely design some running plays for Mahomes or like have him run or like I don't know why like Mahomes just wasn't running. I don't get it, but feels like they should be able to run more here. I think the Chiefs will have success running. Pacheco's coming back, and the Colts won't have DeForest Buckner, which is it's a big deal.
Oh, by the way, the fact that I like Kansas City in this game, all the numbers do point to Indianapolis. I got Indianapolis favored on a number of the on the number of the metrics that I use. But that again, that's because the performance. Yes, it does not take into account necessary quality of opposition, but it does take in performance, and the numbers can make a case for Indianapolis. But this is more of a situational play for me.
Yeah, I have my line is the Chiefs -5. So I actually think this is a little shy of what it should be. So I have Kansas City rated higher than Indianapolis, despite the records.
If I use my pure power ratings, I do have the Kansas City favored in this game by 7 or 8.
Okay, well there we go.
The other numbers that I use that are not strictly power ratings, but they are in a sense power ratings for means of comparison, have the Colts.
Okay, so how much do you like the Chiefs here?
A lot.
A lot. Okay. Okay. Is it your top play or top 3 or?
I think it is the top play.
Top play. Okay.
I think that's the one I wrote up. I think that's the one that I wrote up. It was kind of like my top play last week was Denver over the Chiefs.
Yeah. Well, yeah. You love Denver. Yeah.
Yeah. I loved Denver last week, and now I love Kansas City this week. And it's kind of like a game that I was hoping that Denver would win because that would make me like Kansas City a lot this week.
Yeah. Yeah, just 2 for 1 special here.
Doesn't mean that it's going to work, but the situation comes up the way I wanted it.
Mm-hmm. Kevin Kovac, another $5 super chat. Thank you so much, Kevin. He says Chiefs playoff run starts this week. We'll see if they finally stop holding or hiding certain things like they do. Can't drop more games in the AFC. I absolutely agree. We're going to see them throw the kitchen sink at the Colts, and I think that will mean Mahomes runs. I think betting Mahomes over rushing attempts in this game could work out pretty well.
And if I'm making the strategy, if I'm Spagnuolo on defense, and I'm not, but if I were him, I key on Taylor. Make Daniel Jones beat me with his arm and his legs.
Yep. Yep, and Jones has been a turnover machine the past 2 games.
Yep.
We'll see if that continues. It almost feels like carriage turning into a pumpkin at
Well, it's
this
almost
time.
like you're suggesting the Chiefs should wear Giants colors this week.
Yeah, that would be a good strategy. I mean, teams get away with these wacky uniforms anyway. Like the Rams wearing black for some reason. They could certainly do it. Kevin also says.
Well, you see, by the way, that's the solution for Cincinnati not having fans show up. Have the Bengals wear different uniforms each week.
Right.
Fans will come out to buy the uniforms at the stadium and watch them play. Oh, well, they only lost by 6 when they wore the striped uniforms, and they lost by 15 the times that they won the polka dot uniforms.
The polka dot, that'd be so ugly. Their whole jersey just be stripes like a Bengal. That'd be.
Well, then they come out in the playoffs and they wear tic-tac-toe uniforms.
Or they could invite the Savannah Bananas in and just have that, like, even though it's baseball. So maybe the fans will show up then. Kevin also says Cousins targeted Pitts 9 times against Miami. 9 times. That's a good call too. It's especially with London out, I think that Pitts is going to get more targets there. Richard says Titans are rated 32nd DVOA, Seattle first. In the history of the NFL, a 32nd ranked team has never beaten a first ranked in DVOA ever. That's it's interesting.
How long has DVOA been in existence? Although I guess you could go back into time and create DVOAs for years before it was created.
Yeah, I think retroactively. I assume this goes back to 2002 because we didn't have 32 teams before then. So I would say since 02 they could do that.
By the way, you asked or you were talking before about where teams ranked with what was it, Cincinnati and Tennessee. Let me see where I have that number here, because I do believe that I actually have Tennessee ranked ahead of Cincinnati.
Really?
Yeah, not by much.
Wow.
Let me see where I have it here.
I'm surprised anyone ranked at Tennessee. I think Tennessee's like I have Group A through F. Like Tennessee might be its own group, like Group Z or Group G. Mm-hmm. I don't know. Like they're that bad.
Well, let me see. Cincinnati's average loss. Well, I said Tennessee's average loss is 14.6 in their 9 losses. In their 7 losses, Cincinnati's average loss is 16.1.
Yeah, but that was Jake Browning.
Doesn't matter what it was. That's what it is. That's you can make excuses for every team. If you want to explain a number, I can explain away a number in every game.
Well, I
don't do it because it's all part of the resume.
Well, I'm not making excuses. I'm just saying that the Bengals are obviously better with Flacco than Browning. Yeah. You know what I mean? So, like, I wonder what the average marginal loss is with Flacco.
I'll tell you what, I actually have Tennessee rated, and again, it's because of their overall strength of schedule and things. I actually have Tennessee rated ahead of 3 teams.
Really?
It surprised me, but these are numbers, and they're based on a statistically valid formula. You want to guess what 3 teams?
What?
I mentioned one of them, Cincinnati, because they're number 32.
Okay, so Raiders?
They're number 31.
Okay.
The next one might be a little bit of a surprise because they do have some good qualities, but they're still bad.
Is it the Saints?
27.
What about Washington?
Washington's 26.
Yeah. Well, then again, I don't know what Washington's good qualities are.
They're not Tennessee.
Yeah. Is it the Giants?
No, the Giants actually ranked number 24. And a lot of it has to do with a couple of the games they won against quality teams, Philadelphia and the Chargers.
Okay. The Browns?
Yeah.
It's the Browns.
They are number 30. They are very close to Cleveland, but I actually have Vegas, who's number 31. I have them about 2.5 points better than Cincinnati, the Raiders. Raiders have played some competitive games. They just come up on the short end in a lot of them.
Yeah.
Blew the game against Jacksonville. Blew the game against Chicago.
Yeah, they could certainly
could have beaten Denver. Could have beaten Denver.
Yeah, could have beaten Dallas on Monday night. No, I'm just kidding.
No,
could have stayed within 7-16, I guess.
Well, they could have beaten Dallas if they stayed on the field at halftime while the Cowboys went to the locker room.
Or just score some free points. Actually, they probably get tripped up and Gino throw an interception to like the cheerleaders or something.
Oh, was that offensive line horrible?
You said I've quoted you on a number of occasions on the site. You said it's the worst offensive line you've ever seen.
Well, at least in recent memory, which goes back a long ways.
I mean,
Gino had no chance.
No, he doesn't. No.
He gets a firm grip on the ball, and they're already in his face.
And Genti has no chance either. They
no.
I didn't post this on the on Twitter, which I regretted. But I wasn't like too. I don't know, for some reason I was like, this number's so low. I live bet Ashton Genti under 30.5 rushing yards. This is
and he won easily.
Yeah, it was the second quarter.
What do you have? He had 6 runs for 7 yards or something.
Yeah. He had 10 in the second quarter, and so I bet under 30.5. I'm like, you know what? I like this, but I'm like, what if he breaks one randomly in the second half? But yeah, that won so easily. Didn't have to sweat it. I mean, they barely ran. They ran 6 times. So those.
I think Chip Kelly's I think he's there just picking up a paycheck.
I think so too.
Very innovative. I mean, there's no excuse for running 6 times in a game. Although, and I've said this before, and I still hold it to it, the Raiders have one of the best balanced offensive lines in football because they suck at both the run and the pass and pass protection.
There you go. There's the positive, I guess you could say. No, I think Chip Kelly's just misusing the players he has. Like he has. I like Dante Thornton.
Geno Smith, whatever you think of him, he's a better quarterback than he's shown this year, and that has a lot to do with the play calling.
Yeah, I mean,
and the offensive line. Yeah,
he's not quite top 10 like Mina Kimes said, but he is. He's made. I'd rank them like 21st or 22nd amongst the starters.
That's reasonable
into the season. Yeah,
yeah,
but he's not this bad. You're right, and like. Yeah, I mentioned Dante Thornton. I like this guy a lot coming out of Tennessee and heading into the season. I thought he could have a good year. And Chip Kelly's using Dante Thornton, or at least he was. He's not playing much anymore. He's using him as like a deep threat, Dante Stalwart type of guy.
But in order to have success against a deep threat, you got to give your quarterback time to let the guy get deep.
Right, exactly. And like I'm like, this guy can do a lot more than this. Like he can run a bunch of other routes. I don't know. I think he's just talented, and Chip Kelly just doesn't know how to use him.
I mean, there's talent on this team. Genti's a quality running back if they get open holes for him. Bowers is amongst the best at his position.
Yeah.
They don't have a lot in the way of receivers. Thornton, I guess, is one of them, but I got rid of Jacoby.
Yeah, Trey Tucker's had some good games.
Yeah, Tucker's had some good games, yeah.
Yeah. It just feels like misused talent. I think misused draft class.
The other thing is with offensive lines, and this is something I've always felt, that the Raiders have poor coaching when it comes to offensive lines. You can expect offensive lines to have trouble early in the year. Offensive line play is about technique, leverage, stance, things like that. Holding blocks, being able to, and the techniques that allow you to hold blocks and maybe get away with a little bit of holding if you don't make it that obvious. You need time for that. And good offensive line coaches are able to get that out of players. And you see offensive lines improve week by week over the season. You don't see that with the Raiders. So I think they made some coaching, perhaps mishires in that.
Yeah, I think so too. They really screwed up in the draft. They could have drafted Armand Membu instead of Genti. Membu's been amazing this year, and it made more sense because in the second round they could have taken one of Chip Kelly's running backs from Ohio State. They could have taken Judkins or Henderson.
Yeah,
that would have made so much more sense. They'd have a run.
As a Raider fan, I'd be happy with either of them.
Yeah, they'd have better run blocking for one of those two talented guys. Like, yeah, they're not.
When you bring in a new coach and a new GM, the way you do it, and I know the fans don't like to hear it, and I'd feel the same way as a fan, but you have to build your offensive and defensive lines before you get your franchise quarterback. A franchise quarterback can succeed with a developed, a mature offensive line ahead of it, and a veteran will struggle with a horrible offensive line ahead of it, as we're seeing here with the Raiders.
We're in agreement. I think build from the inside out.
That's exactly what I was going to say. That's exactly what successful programs do. They realize that every year there's going to be a quality, potential all-pro quarterback coming out in the draft, several of them in many cases. Okay? But it takes a special talent and special type of player to go through the punishment that it takes to play offensive line or defensive line, well, especially offensive line.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, look, the Niners did that. They're perennially great every year, unless they have
Dallas Cowboys did that for many years.
Yeah,
Dallas
Eagles.
Cowboys probably had. You know, if you go back the last 40 years, the Cowboys probably had one of the top three offensive lines, probably in about 30 of those 40 years.
Yeah, Eagles did that.
Yep. Look how they're struggling with Lane Johnson. No, not playing.
Yeah, exactly. So it's so super important.
Although I also think that part of what the Eagles' plan is this year, because they played so many playoff games lately, including the 4 that they played last year. So I think they're saving Barkley for the playoffs.
In what fashion? What do you mean?
Not using him as much.
Okay. All right. We have a question. Trade Achane.
And by the way, especially now that they basically have no competition in the NFC East.
Yeah, they certainly don't, at least not this year. Trade Achane and JJ for Lamb and Chase Brown. It's tough to trade. Achane's just incredible. He's on one of my fantasy teams. He's on 2 of my fantasy teams actually, and he's carrying both teams. Unfortunately, he's on bye this week, but still. But you're getting rid of Justin Jefferson is not really doing anything. So like Lamb is definitely an upgrade over Justin Jefferson. Chase Brown is a downgrade.
No, just JJ doesn't have a quality quarterback trying to get him the ball.
No, he doesn't. Right now, I would say Achane's probably mid-first round pick, maybe even a little bit earlier. Justin Jefferson's been going late second, early third in my best ball drafts. Lamb is a late first, and Chase Brown is late second. So you're trading an early first and a late second for a late first and a late second. So I think you're losing out. I think you're losing out on this, despite getting rid of JJ. I'd rather have Achane and JJ than Lamb and Chase Brown.
Who would you rather have between JJ and Lamb?
Lamb. Yeah, Lamb for sure.
Yeah, that's what I would think. So, when you consider the fact that Dallas might be in a position to play from behind and therefore pass the ball a lot more than Minnesota, maybe that's, is it worth having Lamb and Achane as versus JJ and Brown?
I think the difference between Lamb and JJ is less than the difference between Achane and Chase.
Yeah, but what about their usage going down the stretch?
Well, Chase Brown will get a bump because Joe Burrow's coming back, or at least we think he is, because he's going to score more touchdowns that way. And Chase Brown's rest schedule is amazing. Yeah. They do play the Ravens twice.
And no, that's it. They play the Ravens twice. Ravens play the Bengals and the Steelers twice. But here's the schedule. So
Ravens, Bills, which is a great matchup.
The only problem with the Bengals is that they're probably underdogs until they get to the final 3 weeks of the season, where you might have some toss-up lines.
Yeah, maybe we'll see.
They might be playing. They might, with their defense also, even when they play some of these beatable teams, they may be forced to do more passing from behind, and so you don't get that running game even with Brown back.
Yeah, well, you will get
because again, you get Brown in there, and you get Burrow back in there. You still have that defense.
Yeah, you do get the receptions from Chase Brown too, and he catches passes in the backfield. And P. Ryan's injured right now. And also Achane is going to be out this week because he has the bye. So that is a factor. Like, I think if you need to win this week, then I think you pull the trigger. Otherwise, I don't think you do. So,
but you have to think of the entirety of the 7 remaining weeks, not just the 6 remaining weeks after this week. You may be great this week, but how does it play? How does it play out over the final 8 weeks?
Well, I'm just saying
final 6 weeks.
I think the trade is different if you're 8-3 compared to 5-6, and you need a win. You know what I mean? So if you're 8-3, you're looking ahead for the playoffs. Then or change Achane for Gibbs. I would rather have Gibbs because Gibbs plays every game. Achane's gonna be out this week because of the bye. So I'd definitely rather have Gibbs. Plus, he's better anyway. He is both. Okay. I changed in the trade. No. I'd rather keep Achan. I'd rather keep Achan in the trade than Gibbs. Yeah. All right. Well, good luck either way. It's a very close trade. I like I said, if you're like 5-6, 6-5, you really need to win to get in the playoffs. I think I'd do it. But if you're like sitting pretty at 8-3 and it doesn't really matter, then if you win this week or not, then I don't think I would do the trade. Okay, so let's move on to the next game, which is Jaguars at the Cardinals. This line is Jaguars -3. Despite the Jaguars being favored by 3 on the road here, I think these teams are about even, and despite the disparity in the records, and the EPA numbers actually show that Arizona is the better team. Funny enough, Arizona is 20th in offense and 12th in defense. Jacksonville is 21st in offense and 21st in defense. So it just feels like Arizona has been unlucky, whereas Jacksonville has been lucky. You talked about that Raiders game that the Jaguars could have easily lost and went to overtime. There's been a couple games this year where the Jaguars have been lucky, and there have been 5 games this year where Arizona could have won on the final play.
Well, their first 5 losses
Yeah.
were by 4 points or less. I think a total of 13 points in those first 5 losses.
Yeah.
I'll say I do like Arizona in this game. I like the fact that they've been so competitive. In fact, the first game that was not decided by 4 points or less was a double-digit win they had against Dallas, and then of course they had 2 wins earlier against Carolina and New Orleans. The win against Carolina is looking at least a little bit better compared to what we thought at the time. But the other thing is, I like the spot that they're in because of the fact that they're coming off of 2 very difficult yet one-sided divisional losses against teams that are almost certain to make the playoffs. The Seahawks and the 49ers.
Yeah.
So they are stepping down in class right now.
Yeah.
They're home underdogs.
Right. They play 2 tough teams. You're right. I mean,
now, to be fair, I believe Jacksonville is it Jacksonville I'm thinking of? Are they 3-0 straight up as favorites this year, I think?
I'm not sure about that. I'm not sure.
I'll take a look.
But Luke's saying the injury report is concerning, and it is. You have Jonah Williams,
Harrison.
Beecham. Yeah, Harrison's already out. So Kelvin Beecham, Jonah Williams, DMP, Baron Browning, DMP, Will Johnson, DMP, Will Hernandez, DMP. Although he's been DMP all week and every week this year, and he's been playing sometimes, I guess.
Jacksonville, by the way, is 3-0 straight up as a favorite this year at home to Carolina. At home to Houston, and on the road at Vegas. They're 2-1 against the spread. They covered 4.5 in that win against Carolina that they won by 16. They covered in the win against Houston, laying 1. They won 17-10. And against the Raiders, who drew some late money, they ended up going off as a 1.5 point favorite in a 30-29. I think that was the overtime win where the Raiders went for 2 and did not make it. And I think I remember that game because I said it was a horrible play call.
Well,
that was the one against Chicago. I don't recall. There's so many horrible play calls for the Raiders.
Yeah. Of course, yeah. I had the Raiders in that Jaguars game, so I remember that one fondly. I think you have to wait till the end of the week, see if maybe the injury report gets better. It's only Wednesday, so Jags tend to zigzag. One good performance followed by one poor one. That is how they played. And the Jaguars, they have their issues as well. They could be down their top 2 receivers again. Trevor Lawrence does not play well here. Like all year, he's been very underwhelming. Jacksonville's running game was really good last week, but Arizona's better against the run than the Chargers are. So I don't think the Jaguars are going to have these advantages. And coming off that huge win in a blowout could give them a false sense of confidence here. So I like Arizona. You do as well. I mean, you talked about it. Yeah. Anything else to add?
I think they're a money line play.
Oh yeah, I can see that too. Yeah, just look out for the injury report. See if it's not that bad for Arizona. Abraham asking, "Hey guys, should I trade Hampton for Kittle?" My running backs are Cook, Genty, and Aaron Jones. I'm 9-2. My current tight end is Goddard. If you have Cook, Genty, and although like Genty's not really doing all that much, Aaron Jones, I guess, is fine. It's the committee. I don't think you're like that safe at running back. Goddard's pretty good.
He's still a contributor.
Yeah. Goddard's pretty good. I know Kittle just had a big game, but like there are going to be some games where Kittle doesn't do anything just because they need him to block.
Especially because they also have McCaffrey, who's had a very good year receiving.
Yeah, right. Actually, I don't know if I'd do this. I don't feel like it's overly confident about Gentry and Jones. Because Jones is so injury prone, and Gentry doesn't have any blocking.
What about a Hampton blocking?
Yeah, I know. Well, you know what? I don't necessarily think you're going to start Hampton over Gentry anyway. So you know what? I actually go back on that. I think I would trade for Kittle. I think I would do it. It's close. I think I would. Would you?
I think Kittle and Goddard are relatively similar players as far as their importance to the respective offenses.
Yeah, I think.
And maybe it gives, and because they're you've got was it Brown and Smith for the Eagles, who are good players when the Eagles decide to pass the football. I think that gives an opportunity for Goddard to get more receptions, depending upon the coverage they use on the two wideouts.
Yeah, we'll see. He might be affected by the Lane Johnson trade as well. Lane Johnson as well. Yeah. So
how long is he expected out for? 4 to 6 weeks, or
4 to 6 weeks? Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I think the offense is not going to score as much. Goddard's touchdown percentage could go down, so that is a concern at least. So anyway, all right, we can move on to the next game, which is look at this beauty, the Browns at the Raiders. This line
league rules say that this game must be televised.
Right. They go to Heidi again. The Browns were -3.
Heidi is -2.5 against both teams combined.
I like Heidi in that. The Raiders were -3, -118 on Monday, because I know Cassandra notified me about that. They're now -4, and I think that's because it was announced that Shedeur Sanders will start. Now, if you're Jacina Anderson, you might think that the Browns should be 7-point favorites in this game at the very least. But
if you're who?
I guess you didn't see the Twitter stuff. Jacina Anderson used to be the an ESPN reporter. She went, Andy, this isn't crazy, incredible. She went on like a 20 or 30 tweet rant about Shedeur Sanders during the game, and she kept making excuses every time. She's like, Shedeur made this great throw, and it's like a 1-yard pass to Judy, where he turned into like a 10-yard gain. She's like, I can't believe he made this great throw, and he didn't even have any starting reps.
Are you sure? Are you sure she wasn't watching practice or warm-ups before the game?
She live clipped the live game action. She was talking about the games, the actual game.
My analysis of this game is quite simple. How can you lay points with the Raiders?
Or bet the under, maybe.
Well, the under is kind of low. What, 37.5, 38?
Yeah, my score on the site is 10-6. So,
let me see what my score is. I think my projected score. Let me see if I can find it here amongst all my papers. I don't think it's all that far off of that, but let me see. Okay, I have it here. This is the comparative analysis. I have it. What'd you say your score was?
10-6.
Okay, you're much lower than I have 17-16.
Okay, well, we're both on there anyway, So the under now is 36. Yeah, it's not. That's way too high.
But Cleveland's defense, forget about Sanders. Cleveland's defense is going to keep them in this game,
or win the game.
Or win the game. Yeah.
The issue, obviously, with the Raiders. First of all, they stink, but they're not going to be able to block Myles Garrett.
What's that? Sorry, I missed that.
They're not going to be able to block Myles Garrett, and they're a horrible team coming off a short week on Monday Night Football. This is something that we kind of uncovered last week, where teams coming off Monday Night Football, they were bad or have a very tough time.
What's it now, like 10-17 or something like that?
It's 10-16. Okay. Teams coming up Monday Night Football. But the teams that are bad have a very tough time covering. Like we had we had a couple teams that were really good coming off Monday night. We had the Eagles and Packers, who were Group A and Group B. The Raiders are Group F or D, probably F. And so I don't trust the team like that with short rest against a far superior defense. So I can't lay 3.5 or 4, like you said. You can't really lay more than a field goal or a field goal in general with the Raiders.
I don't know that I could lay anything with them.
Yeah, I agree with that, especially on a short
week.
week.
I mean, when you take a look at the 4 units, offense and defense, both teams, Cleveland's defense is the number 1 unit, and I think there's a huge gap, and I don't know that there's much of a difference between the Raiders defense, the Raiders offense, and the Cleveland offense.
Well, Cleveland's offense is Shedeur Sanders, and that's why I can't bet Cleveland.
Well, maybe but maybe that lowers it to the level of the Raiders offense.
I don't know, man. Shedeur Sanders.
At least Cleveland can run the football.
Yeah, that's true. That is something. But Shedeur Sanders, 4 of 16, and he's that bad. He just, whenever he sees pressure, he just drifts backward and takes these horrible sacks.
Thinks he's in college.
I
can't avoid the sacks. Yeah,
I saw someone today saying that the Raiders might set the single game record for sacks in a game on Shedeur, and I can see that. But Myles Garrett,
that record this game could have the most record for most combined sacks.
It easily could. So yeah, I can't bet this outside of team total unders or under for this game. What are your thoughts here outside?
Oh, just to give you an idea about the sack recording sacks, Cleveland averages 3.2 sacks per game, and the Raiders get about 1.9, so barely a little bit more than half. And the Raiders are susceptible to 3.1 sacks per game. Cleveland, and of course it was without Sanders, 2.9, so they're about the same there. Mm-hmm. That's not a bad parlay.
Yeah. So I take you like Cleveland here, but how much?
Let me see where I put that in there. I can't, looking at it now, as opposed to what I was thinking earlier, I couldn't see it be more than a weak opinion. And when the line was 3.5, I put Cleveland plus 3.5 as just an opinion. And then again, that's more against the Raiders. And also, again, like I said, usually you have, if Team A has one strength, Team B has a strength that is either slightly better or slightly worse. Okay, like Dallas's offense and Dallas's defense.
Yeah.
Okay, as good as Dallas's offense is, their defense is just as bad, as opposed to Dallas having a great offense and an average defense. Although the defense, could be improving now with the acquisitions. Here, I only see the one unit, as I mentioned before. It's the Cleveland defense. And, then there's a huge drop-off. Whoever you want to rate 2, 3, and 4 between Raiders offense, Cleveland offense, and Raiders defense, the difference isn't all that great, I think, between any of the 3 of them. But there's a huge gap, I think, between those 3 and the Cleveland defense.
Yeah, we totally agree with that. Does your opinion change that now that this 4 is out there? Or is it still the same level of confidence?
Pretty much the same level of confidence, but obviously I'd feel more comfortable taking +4.
Okay. Chris asking, and Andy, maybe you want to weigh on this. Should I start Browns defense or Raiders defense in fantasy?
It depends if you're trying to win or lose.
Well, both seem like great plays, though. Starting either defense.
Well, yeah, because the obviously the Browns have an advantage going up against an inept Raiders offense. At the same time, the Raiders defense has the advantage of going up against Shedeur Sanders. Now, the one unknown there is, now that he's been named the starter, now that he's been practicing all week, and now that everyone knows what the weaknesses were that were exposed last week, maybe Cleveland has an opportunity to do something that the Raiders won't have seen with Sanders.
Yeah.
In other words, Sanders, regardless of what you think of him, regardless of what the reputation was, regardless of what you saw in the preseason, he's still basically an unknown. Much like McCarthy was an unknown coming into the season, and much as McCarthy was an unknown coming back after that extended injury.
Mm-hmm. I think there's, what if the Browns, and I think it's more likely that, well, I don't know. I mean, the Browns have a great defense. So what if they get a defensive touchdown and it's 7-0 and they just like don't allow Shedeur to do anything, like if he's held to like 13 pass attempts or something.
Handoff, swing pass to lose 2 yards.
Right, exactly. So I think there's far better potential for Browns defense. I know Raiders defense for the lulls, like that, it could be entertaining.
Yeah.
But I think the Browns defense is the way to go.
Well, as much as I like Max Crosby, I still think Garrett is the best defensive player on the field.
Yes. Well, yeah, we agree with that. Okay, let's get to another game here. We have Falcons at the Saints. The Falcons were favored
Yeah.
to start the week, and now they are underdogs of 1.5. The Saints at 2-8 are favorites at home. So obviously the Falcons have some major problems. Michael Penix is out for the year. Kirk Cousins is going to start. Drake London is going to be out for a couple games at least. So Darnell Mooney is going to be the receiver one. And Atlanta has issues on the offensive line. We talked about that last week. I don't know if I talked
by the
about.
way, Saints are coming off a bye week as well.
Yes, and I don't know if we talked about it with you on Wednesday because we didn't have much of an injury report yet. But I know I mentioned this with Evan and then Tom on Thursday and Friday. Atlanta's offensive line is kind of in shambles as well because they're already missing Matthew Bergeron, one of their guards, and then the right tackle. He's been out the entire year, and then Chris Lindstrom, their best lineman, who's an All-Pro guard. He was DMP limited.
And that's why I think there were sharp bettors who switched favorites in this game.
Yeah,
it was not the general public. It was the it was, I think, the sharp bettors who realized that during the week leading up to the game, the media would focus on a lot of those Atlanta injuries.
Yeah,
and one thing you got to give the Saints credit for is they continue to play hard.
Yeah, no, they're well coached. They're
Sluck looks like, or the Shook looks like a decent quarterback, and he's getting good coaching from their coach.
Yeah, I mean, look, he was the 40th pick in the draft. They thought highly of him. I trust Kellen Moore. He's a really good offensive minded coach, and like you said,
and of course a good quarterback himself.
Yeah, no, he's
more so in college than in the pros, but
right. But he's been, he's done a good job, and he's kept the Saints hanging
He knows he wasn't given much to work with.
Yeah, that's definitely true. Yeah, look, I mean, it's not his fault that they're 2-8. It's because he hasn't had the horses here. But but if you think about it, they played a very difficult schedule. The Saints, they've taken on the Bills, the Rams, the 49ers back in week 2 when the Niners were healthy. That's with Nick Bosa and Fred Warner. They taken on the Patriots. They taken on the Seahawks, Buccaneers. These are some very difficult opponents, and the only teams below Group C that they battled this year were the Giants, whom they beat by 12, and the Panthers, whom they beat by 10. So this, with Cousins playing, this could be their easiest game of the year. You can make an argument.
What about you talking about for the Saints?
Yes, this could be the Saints' easiest game of the year. They're at home. They're playing a horrible quarterback, a decrepit quarterback with no blocking and no number one receiver. So the Saints look actually pretty good to me. I think they'll be able to win by a touchdown or 10 points. I like the Saints here. What are your thoughts?
Well, especially with London out, I think this one I put down as I think I put this down as an opinion. Yeah, Saints minus 1.5 is a recommendation, an opinion as opposed to a lean. Looking at let's see, what do I have? Atlanta and I have both of them as C teams in my ABC, and they're both 1-1 straight up and against the spread. Atlanta, in the 2 games they've been outscored 30.5 to 22. The Saints have actually outscored those same 2 opponents, despite also going 1-1, 19.5 to 17. My overall evaluation gives I do this thing called game value, which basically allocates the stats and has 100 points between the 2 teams. And a game where they had identical stats would be 50-50. And then depending upon, and I use rushing, total, the yards per play, etc. I have New Orleans 54 as their average score in the 2 games, Atlanta 35. Interestingly enough, against these common opponents, they each averaged 324 yards per game, and they were within 10 yards of each other in defensive yards allowed. And even though it's only a 2-game sample, New Orleans +5 in the turnover margin, Atlanta -1. So, I can make a good case for the for the Saints. Even though, again, you're asking, the Saints. If you look at it in terms of expectations, or not necessarily based on season win totals, I'd say the Falcons, based upon their roster, have greatly underachieved, and the Saints have somewhat. I don't know. I'd say significantly, because it's not reflected in the record, but in their overall play and competitiveness, they've overachieved their talent level.
Yeah, we agree with that. So, yeah, it sounds like we're on the same side again. So, definitely like that.
Not a huge opinion on the Saints. I don't know that I would use them in the contest, because I generally don't like asking a bad team to do something good and win. Because as bad as the Saints are, and maybe the fact that they're in a good position, and they think, hey, we're not going to win many games, this is going to be one of them. Falcons could say the same thing. We're not going to win many games, but this is a winnable game even on the road.
Yeah, that's true. Well, do you think Dunze still being a good buy low, or should I go kick rocks instead? Yeah, I like Dunze. He's inconsistent, but I could see him being a good buy low. I like his matchup this week. I think he's.
Who do they play this week? They're playing
Steelers.
Pittsburgh Steelers. Yeah, Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
Pittsburgh still has the capability of being a good defense, and again, a lot of it will be how much pressure they can put on Caleb.
Yeah, they have a lot of injuries in the defensive backfield, so I think they should do well.
By the way, I haven't mentioned it this week, so when we're done, I'm going to go back and give out recite the advanced summer lines in these games.
Okay.
So
yeah, okay. Luke says I like the Saints as well. Took Falcons team total under and Saints money line, 2 separate plays. Okay, yeah, I like those. Yeah, Atlanta's not going to score much. Saints just stop the run well enough. The Falcons struggle in the air with no decent receivers and a washed Cousins. This means Saints coaching desire appears strong. I definitely agree with that.
That's a good handicap right there.
Yeah. All right.
The over. Let me go back and I'll start off. The Thursday night game, tomorrow's game, the Bills over the summer were and these are bettable numbers at the time.
Right.
Bills were -3.5 for the total 46.5. Of course, they've gone up a little bit. I'm not quite so sure. The Texans, they've been competitive in a lot of the games they lost. Steelers and Bears. Bears were over the summer 2.5-point home favorites, so it's not not that much different. 43.5 the total. Bengals were 5.5 over the Patriots, and of course we understand that Patriots are now favored a little bit more than that on the road. I won't necessarily mention the totals because they're pretty close. Lions pretty close to where they are now. They were 9.5-point favorites over the Giants. Packers were 3.5 over the Vikings. That's now gone up a little bit because of the Packers. They do have a better with a better record, and the Vikings haven't performed as well. So I can understand that line move. This one is how much respect have the Seahawks gotten, and how much out of favor are the Titans? You want to guess what the line was? Seattle at Tennessee over the summer.
Seahawks -3.
Not bad. -1.5.
Okay.
Considerably down from the 13.5 they're favored by now. How about Chiefs and Colts?
Just a little bit difference.
Yeah.
Chiefs, I would say Chiefs -7.
9.5.
Wow. Okay.
Well, again, remember they were defending AFC champions, and the Colts were 9-8 or 8-9 and 9-8 the year before. We didn't know that they'd be playing as well as they are.
Right.
Chiefs are actually winning the games they win this year. I think their three of their losses have all been by I think 3 points until the Buffalo loss, and they've been winning by margins in their wins. Their last few wins. Jets and Ravens. Ravens were 11.5, just a couple of points lower than where they are now. Raiders, interestingly enough, they're favored by 3.5 or 3. They were favored by 3.5 over the summer against the Browns. The expectations were a little bit better for the Raiders back then. Pete Carroll coming in, rookie Ashton Gentry, Geno Smith coming in, his familiarity with Pete Carroll from up in Seattle, and then of course. And now they have who's the one the receiver they got? The Raiders with former Seahawk.
Tyler Lockett.
Yeah. Lockett, yeah.
Yeah.
And the Browns were basically expected to, be a defensive team. So that line really hasn't changed. I'm surprised. Cardinals were 3.5-point home favorites over the Jaguars before the season began. Eagles 4.5 at Dallas. We'll get to that one in a moment. Falcons were 3 over the Saints. Remember, they did open 1 the other night before the money came in. Rams were over the summer -3 at home to the Tampa Bay Bucks. And the Monday night game, they nailed this one back then. 49ers -7 over the Panthers.
Nice. That's funny. It's funny. It's still the same, despite a lot changing. Kevin, $5 super chat. Once again, thank you so much, Kevin. Does Raheem know about this being one of the few winnable games for them? Does it matter? It's true.
Probably yes and no in that order.
Yeah, I don't know if Raheem knows anything that's going on. Like, how did he not take the bye after that 11-hour flight from Germany?
I don't know that was his decision.
I mean, certainly he has to be consulted about it. I don't know, right?
I'd like to think the players were consulted a little bit. So they're the ones who suffer from it the most.
I mean, you figure he talks to the quarterback at least, and then if it's not Raheem's decision, whose decision is it? Is the
ownership? Yeah.
Whoever made that decision is just an imbecile. They look so.
Who was the other? Was it Cleveland? I think was I don't know if it was the only other, but they were the other team. They went out and lost 23-9 to Pittsburgh.
Yeah, these teams need to start taking the buys after these stupid European games. Anyway,
especially at this time of the season.
Right. Yeah, for sure. And it's not like Atlanta had a good bye. They had a week 5 bye. So teams don't like that anyway. I know the Lions are very angry they had a week 5 bye last year.
Yeah. We talked about it before. The NFL should do something. I think what they should do, the simple solution. And you know what I'd like to see? Because I think I wrote this somewhere, that you get rid of early season or late season. You get rid of the Thursday night games. And perhaps you play more Monday night doubleheaders, or actually you eliminate Thursday night games at the beginning and the end of the season, and you have Thursday night doubleheaders in the intervening weeks, and they all involve each. In other words, you have 8 weeks of buys, 4 teams each week, all from the same division. They come back and play 10 days later after the missing the bye Sunday. Come back and play 10 days later a doubleheader: Eagles, Cowboys, Commanders, and Giants, whatever it is.
Yeah. Yeah,
and I think that would be fair, because you're quote unquote penalizing or advantaging, as far as when the buys occur, all 4 teams in the same division, the same amount.
Right. Yeah, and it makes a lot of sense.
It makes too much sense.
Yeah, the NFL's not going to do anything logical, as we know. All right, we have 3 more games to go. Eagles at Cowboys. This line is Eagles -3.5. We have some horrible splits here for the Eagles whenever they don't have Lane Johnson. The QBR of their quarterbacks just plummets. It doesn't matter if it's Jalen Hurts or Nick Foles or Carson Wentz. Whenever Lane Johnson is out, those quarterbacks do a lot worse. They don't run block as well. So Saquon Barkley may not have the running lanes here, and it is a.
He's still averaging. He's still averaging what, under 40 yards per carry, and I think is he still like 1 or 2 in yards before contact?
Yards before contact, he's the second worst behind Genty. Yeah, Genty. Yeah,
and I think is there a significant gap between those two? I would think so.
I think Genty's 1 by far. Yeah, and then Barkley. I just think the Eagles offense is not going to do well here, especially against the Dallas team that's gotten some upgrades. Quentin Williams was a monster Monday night, 1.5 sacks. Logan Wilson played well. So the Eagles, this matchup may have looked better a couple weeks ago, but that's not the case now. The Eagles defense is going to play well, I think, against Dallas's offense. So this should be close. I think there's a decent chance the Eagles will win by 3. So if you get the -3 or +3, it's going to be a push. I think that's most likely the result of this game. So 3.5, I think I would take Dallas here. It's not a strong conviction play for me. What do you think about this game?
If you remember, they played the opening game of the season on the Thursday night, and Dallas hung with them. And, of course, after they had that lightning delay, I think it was 24-20, which I think turned out to be the final score. Yeah. I think it was, 21-20 at halftime or something. I think they scored a field goal, if I remember. I may be wrong on that. Let me see. My projection has Philly win 29-25. My power rating numbers on this game. Let me see. I have Eagles by anywhere from 4 to 11, 5.7, 7.7.
Okay.
But those are just numbers. As you see, my scoring comparative analysis has them by 4, which is right there within that point spread range. Let me see what my other linear numbers have. It has Philadelphia by by about 8 or 10 points, I think, in that matchup. And again, it's because of the overall performance of these teams. I think in my evaluation of this game, I think I went with Philadelphia.
Okay.
But let me see where I put it. I think I put Philadelphia as an opinion play, -3.5. The thought there being is that they are still in contention for that all-important wild card weekend bye. And that doesn't mean that they can't win by 2 points or a field goal and you cash with Dallas. But considering the differences in both teams' defense, now the total yards for these teams, if you use that metric, I think are fairly close because Philadelphia has been outgained by most of the teams they faced this year. Let me grab that sheet. That's on total yards. Philadelphia has been outgained 327 to 300. And this is interesting because the difference between Dallas's offense and defensive numbers are very close. Average gaining 379 per game, which is number 3. Average allowing 381 per game, which is number 30. But the point that it shows here, Philadelphia is being outgained by 27 yards per game. Dallas is being outgained by 2 yards per game. But when I look at it, let's see what it is when I look at it on a yards per play basis, which I find more meaningful. Dallas is gaining and allowing, the numbers are almost identical. Dallas is gaining and allowing 5.9 yards per play. When you take out the rounding, that means they're actually outgained by 0.1 yards per play, which is negligible. Philadelphia is averaging 5.1, allowing 5.2, which comes as a surprise. Now, by the way, what is surprising, though, is that's actually still below the league average of 5.4. That's still minus 0.1. So basically, on a yards per play basis, these teams are even in terms of differential, even though Dallas has 0.8 yards better the offense, and Philadelphia 0.8 yards better on defense. The rushing game, Dallas runs the ball better. Philly stops it better. The passing game, again, I use yards per completion, not yards per attempt or total yards. Philadelphia actually has a slighter better passing game per completion, 11.1 versus 10.4, and they both are below average defensively. Both allow 11.6 yards per completion. So that does make a case for Dallas being able to hang in there. However, when I look at turnovers, Philadelphia +6, Dallas -4, and that is a significant difference between those teams. So in other words, it seems to me Philadelphia has the advantage if they can force Dallas into turnovers on offense, because Philadelphia should have success running the football. Let me see if I can find what the numbers were in that week 1 game as far as total offense goes, because I do have those numbers here. I just have to remove the paper clip to get to it because it's the first game. Let's see, Philadelphia.
Well, as you look,
they outgained. I'm sorry, they were outgained, not by much. They gained 307. Dallas gained 302. Philadelphia ran 56 plays. Dallas ran 62. So basically an even game. But again, you take into account that weather delay and everything, the opening night of the season, etc.
Right. Yeah, that seemed to mess up both teams. Something else I'll say is that the Eagles don't have a great track record in Dallas when Dak Prescott starts. They tend to lose these games. I think actually 7 out of the last 8 games between these teams have gone to the home team. So we had Kenny on last night, who's a diehard Eagles fan. and he thought Dallas was going to win this game for what it's worth. But
I've heard a number of people express that opinion that Dallas will win this game straight up.
I can see it. I can see it with Lane Johnson, a struggling offense. I can certainly see it. So,
yeah, I think I had it as an opinion. I'm a little bit. It probably won't be if it's a play. It's not going to be a very solid play. But I did go with the Eagles, who with the exception of 2 years ago, played their best ball over the second half of the season.
Yeah. Okay.
That year 2 years ago, of course, they started 10-1 and then collapsed.
Right.
But other than that, since they've been a contending team, which now goes back to what, 2018 or 2017 when they won that Super Bowl against New England.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And in 2016, there was the Carson Wentz's first year. They were 7-9.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's get to the Sunday night game with 2 more games to go. Buccaneers at the Rams. The Rams are -6.5. I say this every time. You just like copy paste what I say about the Buccaneers. Whenever they play against top competition, they just don't live up to it. Against the Eagles earlier in this year, they're getting blown out until garbage time. Against the Lions, they lose by 15. Against the Patriots, they lose at home. Against last week against the Bills made a lot of mistakes in the first half. A couple of interceptions from Josh Allen, and yet the Bills still end up winning by 12 points. Even the year before, the Buccaneers played the Ravens on Monday Night Football at home. They got absolutely destroyed. So every time this team has gone up in competition, they just lose. The Rams, they look great. They look like the best team in the NFL. Nice win against Seattle, and they do benefit here from circadian rhythms, where you had the West Coast team favored over an East Coast team, not favorite, but yeah, West Coast team hosting East Coast team that's good on a night game. So that should help. The only worry I have here about the Rams is the spot where, they're coming off such a big win against Seattle. Will they be fully focused against Tampa? I'm not sure. But if they are, they won't have an issue. And they are very well coached. So that could be in their favor. So I like the Rams here. Not a lot, but, it's a small bet here. What are your thoughts on this game?
I lean a little bit towards Tampa Bay getting those points. Of course, it was with the Rams that Baker Mayfield started his resurgence. What was it, 2 years ago, when he had no practice with him, and he had that big game, and that sort of jump started his career. The Rams do have a fairly easy schedule the next 2 weeks: at Carolina, at Atlanta, then they host Detroit, then they're at Seattle, then they're at Atlanta, and they end with Arizona. So they have 2 games against Arizona. In there. As far as Tampa Bay, their upcoming schedule has them, after the Rams, they host Arizona, they host New Orleans, they host Atlanta, then they're at Carolina. So I'm not going to say they can overcome a loss here, but they probably should. They'll be favored at home to Arizona, they'll be favored at home to the Saints, they'll be favored at home to the Falcons. They'll probably be favored at Carolina, at Miami, and hosting Carolina at the end of the season. So Tampa Bay, it's going to be interesting because they, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, they could win all 6 games after this weekend.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I expect them to be favored in all of those games. I mean, I'm trying to think where they would not be favored. Maybe at Carolina. I'm not sure, depending upon what these teams do. But they don't play. They play Carolina twice, week 16 and week 18. So they may already have the division clinched then. They'll certainly be favored at home, I think, against Atlanta. Certainly at home over New Orleans. I would think they'd be favored at home next week against Arizona.
Yeah, I would think so. Yeah.
I don't have we already have a line out on that, but I haven't checked that one yet. And of course, at the Rams. So this is somewhat of a test for them, but I like I say, it was just, and let me see, did I put this down? I think I put it down. I don't remember if I put it down as a I'm going to get over here. Whether I put it down as an opinion or no, I just put it down as a lean when it was 6.5, plus 6.5. So when I put something down as a lean, it means I reserve the right to change my mind or not play the game at all. Mm-hmm. And more often than not, it's not play the game at all. There are some situations that between Tuesday and game day, or certainly contest day on Saturday, that I may rethink things a little bit. Because it's not like I go over these games 2 or 3 times. I go over more like 7 or 8 times, and more often than not, time number 8, I'll see something that I didn't see in the first 7.
Yeah, that's happened to me a bunch of times. So
yeah,
I certainly understand that.
Yeah, so I would lean towards the Rams here, but I don't know if it'll be a play. I'm sorry. I lean to the Bucks here, but I don't know it'll be a play.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. Okay. Let's get to the final game, which is Panthers at the 49ers. So we have
Bryce Young coming off of 2 career days in one game.
It's amazing. Before
448 yards.
Yeah,
that's like 2 or 3 games worth.
Yeah. So hold on a second before we get to that. Kevin Kovac, $10 super chat. Thank you so much, Kevin. That's awesome. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. He says another failed former head coach in bowls. As Bucks fan, you nailed it. Takes care of business, but predictably loses to Group A. Baker overcomes the coaching and explicitly won his Seahawks, though. Yeah, no, that's true. They did win to Seattle. I think at the time, though, Seattle was not really considered a top team, but they did.
No, but I think Todd Bowles got sick in that game and spent the second half in the locker room. No, just kidding.
I was like, really? I must have missed that.
No, I was gonna say that explains why the Bucks beat Seattle.
Yeah, that could be it.
Well, Seattle was a good team. We just didn't really realize it at the time because it was so early.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's very hard. We always talk about people, basing this week on what we saw last week. But with teams that are not expected to do well, we often write it off as, oh, well, that was just a fluke, an outlier or whatever. Because even though you react quickly, when it comes to buying into teams that are playing totally differently than the way you think, you don't want to admit that that maybe you should change. And I say this saying all the time. You don't want to overreact to what you saw last week, but you also don't want to fail to react. Every game has some meaning. Sometimes you may not know it for a few weeks, but when Tampa Bay goes in there and takes a win over Seattle, maybe it says a little bit more about Tampa Bay. But when Seattle starts winning these games and playing as well as balanced football as they do, you have to start taking notice, and the numbers show it. And we'll see what happens. They still have some tough games ahead of them, and they are in a 3-team race for the NFC West. And well, right now, it looks like it's between Philadelphia and the Rams for the best record. And, of course, Philadelphia beat them head-to-head. But, it's a slim lead that they have.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So anyway, we can get to real quick. Have you seen the injury practice report? Lots of players injuries or illness. Illnesses. I was looking at that. I didn't quite check like what they were sick with. So Tampa, illness to Graham Barton, Emeka Ibuka, Dan Feeney, Luke Goedeke, Logan Hall, Baker Mayfield. They have 6 illnesses. Anytime I made a rule.
That almost sounds like that could be like a flu bug or something going around.
Yeah. Anytime I see 3 or more illnesses on the injury report, I'm like, is this flu? Which could be very detrimental to the team. So that's good call, Luke. That's,
and it also may also be just a leading edge of greater illnesses as it spreads.
Right. Go Bitcoin. Bitcoin up in the after hours at night. Yeah, I'd love to hear. I'm not sure what, but yeah, Bitcoin is up to 92K. Anyway, let's get to the last game here. Panthers at the 49ers. This line is Niners -7. Bryce Young, the best game of his career thus far, but we're only 2 weeks removed from him scoring 7 points against the Saints. So let's not pretend that Bryce Young is suddenly this great quarterback. He played a team in Atlanta coming off jet lag with that 11-hour flight.
Oh, I hope the whole world bets Carolina this week heading into the game.
Oh, yeah, that'd be great. I hope so.
Drive that number down.
Yeah. Sounds like we're on the same side there.
49ers are looking like a real football team now, like the football team we expected them to be.
Yes.
The past few years when they were beset by all those injuries.
Yeah. You think Kyle Shanahan is going to have a good game plan here against that Carolina defense that has a lot of holes in it? The Niners with Brock Purdy there healthy now, they have a real quarterback on their center.
Well, Jones was okay. I think
I agree.
Shanahan, I think, has confidence that if they need to bring Jones in,
yeah, no, I
they're
agree.
not dropping off all that much. Especially if you look at Purdy's stats for the games that he was in, they were very, very ordinary.
I agree that Jones did a good job, but Purdy has way more of a ceiling, especially with George Kittle now healthy.
But what?
Ricky Pearsall is going to be more involved.
I don't know. Jones came out with a very glowing credentials, and he was just in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, the Niners defense is improving here. The defense still has injuries, but I don't really trust Bryce Young to fully take advantage of those injuries, despite what he did last week. We also have a bad team coming off a win. Despite the Panthers being 65, I still consider them to be a bad team. And like in the Sunday night game, we have circadian rhythms here with the 49ers aiding them against an East Coast
49ers
team.
do not have a good recent history on Monday nights, however.
Yeah, I'll say this: 49ers being favored over East Coast teams in Monday Night Football are 10-5 against the spread. So they've done well over the years against these teams. So I still
how far back does that go? 2010 or 1989?
1989.
Well, that's 30-something years.
Yeah.
I think I did a research earlier today. I think since 2019. Because I like to look at when I go back and take a look at performances. I usually go back. Last year I give a certain amount of weight to. The last 3 years I give weight to, and the last 6 years. And why do I choose 6 years? Because over a 6-year period, teams will play roughly 100 games.
Sure.
In a 16-game schedule, they used to play 96. In a 17-game schedule, they now play 102 games. Over regular season games over a 6-year period. And that's, I think, 100 games is a decent number. I believe I saw that the 49ers, I think they're 4-4 or 5-5, but I think they're like 1-3 the last 4 times they've been on Monday night.
Is that at home or on the road or both?
Let me see if I can get the breakdown. Not that it matters, because I like the 49ers in this spot, because I think that this team, what was their season win total before the season? Were they 10?
I'm not sure. But no, they are. They're 4-3 against the spread in Monday night home games since 2019.
Okay, on Monday night home games.
Monday night home games, yeah. However, I guess as favorites, it looks like I don't know. They're only the underdogs once, so no, sorry, they were underdogs twice. So it's really 3-2 as favorites. Against East Coast teams, though, as favorites, it's like 1-0, 1-1, 2-1, 2-1 against the spread as favorites over East Coast teams. So
yeah, so see, I'm showing since 1919 on Monday nights. I'm showing them overall 5-5 straight up. Let me see. I don't know if these are. Well, no, I do have home record. They are. And let's see. ATS. I have them at 4-2, 5-5 against the spread. At home, I have them, and I guess this is against the spread. 1, 2, 3, 4. I have them 4-3. Did you say? I think against the spread at home.
Yeah, it's on the screen here. 4-3.
Yeah, that's what I have. No, I'm in a different. I'm on my other computer when I have this. Let's see, because I have a thing here where I can call up teams' records straight up against the spread, over unders, and in 6-point teasers.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah. Okay.
Which, by the way, let me just mention something here. Let me do something here.
Okay. These teams barely ever play against each other. It opened 6.5. So money coming on the Niners. Yeah, the Niners and not Panthers, they don't play very often, but it's not like they're non-conference teams where it's only once every 4 years. So did you find what you're looking for? Or
yeah, if I put the file name incorrect, I will get it correctly. And I'm going to tell something about the Denver Broncos this year. Let me just get this here.
Luke says I feel like 7 is a big number.
The Denver Broncos are 9-1 in 6-point teasers this year.
Oh wow! Okay.
Or is it 10-1? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 10-1 because they played 11 games. They've yet to have their bye. They are also, let's see, it looks like 8-3 to the under.
Okay. Okay, makes sense.
Yeah.
I feel like 7's a big number. I actually made this line 8, so I think this line's shy of what it should be.
Sorry, say it again now. What about 8?
I made this line 8, so I think it's shy of what it should be. Do you want to tell us why you like the Niners a lot? Is this a high confidence pick?
Well, yeah, this is also one of the higher confidence ones I like. They're playing well. They're in a tight division race. The Panthers, yeah, they have a shot at a wild card, but they're not that good of a team. And the other thing is, what happens if can you expect 2 good games out of Bryce Young in a row? What happens if the Panthers fall behind by 14 points and they have to pass the ball?
Yeah.
And San Francisco's got a good. My numbers actually are they're probably like yours. My 4 sets of numbers have the 49ers 11.1, 8.5, 9, and 9.5.
Okay. Yeah, sounds pretty similar.
And let me just see if I've got my predicted score. My pages here are all a mess because they're all being scattered in like a very small pile. I have them winning 26-17.
Okay. All right. Well, it's good enough to get there. So, we're on the same page in a lot of these games this week.
Yeah.
I feel like Cincinnati, New England is the one disagreement. I don't know if Jets Ravens, I think was a disagreement, but I didn't feel strong about that game.
Yeah, you liked the Jets, but you weren't that strong on it. I was a little bit stronger on the Ravens.
Yeah, and I think we agree on everything else.
Because I think I'll be interested to see, but you would think, and we don't know in Survivor, but know in the Westgate Survivor where you don't need to save teams because there's no Christmas Thanksgiving week, that Ravens over Jets should be a popular play this week if you haven't already used the Ravens.
I would think so, and Seahawks.
That would be the other one. But especially with the uncertain status of Joe Burrow for Thanksgiving night, because if Burrow does not play, the Ravens would be a play in that game. But now there's that uncertainty. But you don't have to make your play. Well, you have to make your play if you're going to play the Ravens over the Jets. But as we get reports later in the week, and again, we don't know how much of it is a smokescreen as opposed to reality. If the word comes out of the Bengals camp that Burrow is going to start against, they're going to start this week against the Patriots, as opposed to no, we're going to hold him out because we don't want him to play this week and then have to play 4 days later.
Right, yeah.
Which I think is a better reason for Burrow not to play this week against New England, because if let's say you go 1-1 against New England and Baltimore, more important game is the game against Baltimore.
Yep, that's for sure. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I think we disagreed on 2 games, and so
which was the other one? Was it Dallas Philly?
No, okay, 3 games. Yeah, we disagreed on that one. We disagreed on Cincinnati, New England, and we disagreed on Jets, Ravens.
Jets, Baltimore, yeah.
Yeah, but I only felt strongly about Patriots, Bengals. So I think I'll take that as a good sign that we agree on 11 of these 14 games. So it's
and we look at them from different perspectives too.
Yeah, exactly. So hopefully
it's not like we're parroting each other and liking or disliking, agreeing or disagreeing for the same reason.
Exactly right. So yeah, I mean, hopefully that is an omen that we'll go 5-0 in our contest plays this week. I know you always say I'll take 4-1, but I want to go for 5-0 this week. So
I always want to go for 5-0. I'll be happy with 4-1.
Yeah, I feel the same way. So
I don't like to be overly greedy, even though that was what I'm hoping for. I'll be satisfied with 4-1.
Yeah, I hear you. Anything else before we head out? I know you said you couldn't be on for 4 hours, so
that was when we were only in hour number 1. Now I'm getting my strength, and I've got two cookies from Subway to munch on afterwards. But it's going to be an interesting week. We've got a lot of good games coming up over the next few weeks. Let me see if there's any other points I wanted to cover. I'll probably be listening to you and Evan tomorrow night.
Mm-hmm.
Let me see. The one thing I have here, I rate down, and again, I base my rankings on win-loss record. I think I described it an A team are teams that are more than 2 games above 500. A C team are teams that are more than 2 games below 500, and teams that are from +2 to -2 are Group B.
Mm-hmm.
Eagles are 5-0 against teams in that B category, of which the Cowboys are at. Eagles 5-0 straight up, 4-1 against the spread, winning by an average of 5.2 points per game.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think anyone would debate Philadelphia being an A team. Dallas against an A team this year, 0-4 straight up, 2-2 against the points. Average loss by 10.2 points per game against those A teams that they've played, including Philadelphia the first time around. That was actually one of the 2 covers in their 2-2 ATS record. So that was one of the things that I liked about Philadelphia. Although, interestingly enough, in their 5-0 record against the Group B teams, they've been outgained by an average of 66 yards. Dallas 0-4, they've been outgained by just 31 yards per game. And again, the big difference here, turnover margin. In their 5 wins against B teams, Eagles are +7 in turnovers. In their 4 losses against A teams, the Cowboys are -5. So turnovers have played a lot of a factor in these games against. And let me just see if I have one more here that I can take a look at that game. I don't think it has a lot of samples. And that is, I like to take a look at, again, the game stats against common opponents, which, again, it's a nice tool to have, but it also has to be considered that you face opponents at different times of the season, and obviously with more injuries more and more significant, you may be facing a team in the first in let's say Dallas and the Giants. Dallas may face the Giants the first time without Dak Prescott, and they may face the Giants the second time with Dak Prescott, and that would make a difference overall. And you don't play that many games, but against common opponents, Eagles are 2-2 straight up and against the spread, and the Cowboys are. See, it shows 1-1 straight up and 1-2 against the spread, but that's because there's a tie in there that I don't show the column for. They're 1-1 straight up. Eagles are 2-2. Eagles have given up exactly the same number of points as they've allowed in those four games against the common foes, and I think part of that is they played 2 games against the Giants that are included. Mm-hmm. Dallas -5.6 in their 3 games. Of course, one of those games was that tie against the Packers. Dallas in those 3 games against the common opponents gave up an average of 7.3 yards per play compared to the Eagles giving up 5.1. Small sample, but it's still a significant difference. Offensively, the Eagles have gained 6.3, Dallas 5.9. So those numbers, if and again, how much emphasis you place on common opponents, is an individual thing. And, we're talking about teams that have played 10 or 11 games, and we're talking about four common games for the Eagles and only 3 for Dallas. So it's not a great sample size, but it's just another means of comparison when you're trying to find significant differences.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah, that makes sense. Definitely, you can look at it that way. Okay. Do you want to promote logicalapproach.com? I'll always say sign up for Andy's newsletters. They're great. They not only have picks, but they have a lot of great info in them too.
Yeah, this week we take a look at a little bit of history lesson on NFL totals.
Okay. All right.
The 10 most key numbers, ranges and key numbers. And, I look at all the games since 2002. Again, you go back to 2010 because of the changes in practice. I go back to 2002 because that was the last significant change in the structure of schedules and division alignment, teams and divisions, etc. Because you could almost make a case for any year for being the starting point, because what about significant rules changes?
Right. I mean,
pass interference and things like that. But I tend to go on things where any like your going back to 2010 is based on the significance of the decreased practice time and your assertion or belief that it hurts the weaker teams more than it helps the better teams.
Yes.
But we don't really know that. That's just an assumption, because maybe the weaker teams are weak because they drafted poorly, or they don't have as good coaching. Why are certain teams, regardless of the practice, why were certain teams that were bad in 2006 still bad in 2020?
Right.
Teams like Cleveland or Arizona. Arizona actually had some success in the late aughts when they made that Super Bowl appearance and were in the playoffs for a few years under Bruce Arians. But as opposed to my starting point of 2002, because that referred to a structure that did not necessarily impact the play of the game, the practices, or anything. It's like, okay, we now have 8 divisions, 4 teams each. We've got a regular schedule. You're going to play, 6 games against your division rivals, 4 games against one entire division in your conference, and one entire division in the other conference. That's 6 plus 4 plus 4 is 14. And then the other 2 games were going to be against the teams within your conference. Let's say the Giants play, well, obviously their division, and let's say they play the NFC North. So their other 2 games would be against, let's say the Giants finished first in their division. So those other 2 games would be against the team that finished the previous season first place in the NFC South and first place in the NFC West. So that had a lot to do with scheduling structure, which was basically the same for all teams within a division. And so that's why I go back to that point. There was a lot more, and it's objective rather than subjective, because I'm not. It's kind of like if you go back to 2010 and you go with your theory about the practice time affecting the weaker teams more so than the better teams. What if you go back to 2000? I'm just going to throw an example out there, just make this one up. 2006, where they have changes in the pass interference rules or something like that affect teams that pass the ball more than teams that run the ball more. So there could be something there also. So I look at structural changes such as division alignment, or even even when they went to a 17th game. At least there was some uniformity there, to the extent that, okay, in the first year, game 17 was going to be all teams in the AFC were going to be the host in 2000, whatever the first year was. The following year, the NFC was going to host 9 games, and then the following year back to the AFC. And then, of course, you have now that gets all blown up to a small extent with the half dozen or so international games where one of the teams involved, and it's not necessarily the AFC all in one year or the NFC all in one year. It could be either way, but 7 teams are giving up home games to play a neutral site game. It's still a very small part of it all, but it does come into play to some extent. So that's why I go back. I had for many years gone back to the years when I first started collecting data, and I still have those data files. That I sell them on the website for people who like to go back to the prehistoric age, 1982. When there were only I think 28 teams. What's that?
I was born in 1982.
Maybe you were the inspiration. I didn't know it at the time.
Right.
But I said these numbers, these databases will come in handy. I mean, that was when I was working on an old Apple II Plus.
Oh, nice.
And when they went from 32K to 48K, that was like that was a huge advancement in the storage capacity. But the point is that you can always make a case for how far you want to go back. And I realized, you go back to 1982, it's nice for historical purposes. Even 2002 may be going back a little bit too far, but the NFL was on a uniform basis beginning in 2002. You could argue that there was a fundamental change when they went to a game 17, but that affected everybody.
Right.
Okay, I don't know if that had any advantage, because like I say, if you had, let's say, the extra game 17, let's say 8 AFC teams would host in one year, and the same year 8 NFC teams would host, and then you switch it around the following year as far as which 8 teams did what. That's a little bit different, because conferences still have a significant part of being sort of independent, that you want everyone in the conference to be treated similarly. That's why I'm a big advocate, as I said before, give all 4 teams in a division the same bye week.
Right.
Because the division race is still the most important race in the regular season, because it determines who gets a home game in the first round of the playoffs.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. And we saw that many times where a 9-8 team, would Tampa Bay would win with a 9-8 team, and yet the second place team in two other divisions would have a better record and have to play on the road against that 9-8 team, which doesn't seem fair, because the fact that you are a 9-8 team versus a team that finishes second in the division with a 13-4 record. Okay, the 9-8 team got that record of 9-8 because they beat up a lot of crappy teams because nobody could win 10 games in that division, as opposed to the team that finished 11-7 and lost to a team that was 10-7, or let's say that finished 11-6, but lost out to a team that finished 13-4. That 11-6 team still had to beat a lot of better teams than the team that finished 9-8 in the lousy division.
Yeah, that's 100% true. Yeah.
But I think that, and then the old saying was kind of like in baseball: we want division races to mean something.
Yeah, no, I still like it.
But you only play 6 games within your division.
Yeah, and
I would like to see
diluted. Yeah, with the,
I would like to see
game.
the NFC consider doing what baseball did. I think in baseball you now play every team. The other 29 teams you play in a given season. You still play more games against the division rival, but that's a 162 game schedule. I'd like to see the NFL adopt something along those lines. You play 17, soon to be 18 games. So let's stick with a 17-game schedule for right now. I'd like to see each team play the other 15 teams within their conference, and you could alternate home road on on an annual basis, and then you play 2 interconference games, maybe against 2 teams in a different division, and that way, the conference race will be decided basically by 15 games against teams in the same conference.
Right.
And you line up the teams, and in other words, you do away with divisions. You just base everything on 1 through 16. Of which 15 of the 17 games are against 15 of those 15 of the other teams other than yourself.
I like the divisions, though. It's so many rivalries. I think there's more rivalries in football than baseball.
But you still have rivalries within the conference.
I guess
you don't really have interconference rivalries, because except for the playoffs, you meet once every 4 years.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. I still like the divisions, though. It's on the NFL logo. That's the 8 stars for the 8 divisions. So I don't know. I'd like the divisions too much, I think, for that.
Well, that's because that's what we're used to.
Yeah, I know. I don't know. Yeah. I don't like change. I'm a curmudgeon when it comes to that.
You're too young to be against change. That's old farts are against change. Oh, we're so used to it. Now we have to learn a whole bunch of new abbreviations. But I've never been one that says you stick with what you've done because that's the way you've always done it. You'd never have innovation if you didn't make changes.
I know, but some stuff you can keep the same.
We'd still be riding horses everywhere if the cavemen didn't invent the wheel.
That's true. Although there's gonna be like a horse manure problem if we didn't invent cars.
But the horse manure, you'd grow a lot more in terms of vegetables and things like that.
Yeah, I guess so. I think there's like a real concern before the cars were invented that like there's gonna be too much horse poop on the streets.
Was that literally a concern that was expressed then? I mean, looking backwards, we can say that would be a concern, but I don't know if it was really. I don't know how far back people actually envisioned motor transportation.
I don't know. I mean, I did read about that, so who knows if that's true, but at least that's what I read. It kind of makes sense if you think about it. Yeah. But yeah.
I don't know. I don't know that anybody 100 years in the past could have come close to forecasting these great advances that we've made, technology and otherwise, health-wise, for example. That if you were there in 1919, that you can envision 100 years later, all these diseases would be cured, or certainly much well on their way to being erased, or certainly treated successfully. Or that 100 years ago, you could imagine watching something live from someone who was 3,000 miles away because of television, or that you could envision man walking on the moon and having it being shown back to Earth live,
Yeah.
or all the advantages, that you can now wear on your wrist and carry in your pocket and make phone calls on a device that give you the answer to almost any bit of information in the world that you'd want.
Yeah, I once played a video game called Shadows of Memories, which is a really good game. It's actually you have to prevent your own death. You get a you get a chance to go back in time because someone's trying to kill you, and you keep going back in time. There's the one part of the game you go back to 1580, and you hold up your phone because like people are like, where did you come from? And you hold up your phone, and people are like, oh my god, monster! They run away. So it's funny, like something so simple for us back then
we take for granted. One can only imagine. It's funny because there are people who can imagine what new technology will we have 100 years from now that we can't conceive of today. Time travel, for example.
Right.
It seems unthinkable. It's a difficult concept to grasp intellectually.
Oh yeah. I mean, the obvious one is if there's ever going to be time travel, why didn't someone from the future ever come to us
and tell us about it? Yeah.
Right. But then there could be just parallel universes that, a new universe.
Or then we go back in time and change our own destiny.
Right.
I go back 40 years and say, or 50 years, whatever it is, gee, I think I'll go take, computer science instead of urban development, something like that. That was a great course, urban development. I enjoyed that one. I enjoyed astronomy. I enjoyed media and communications. In fact, I still have some of my textbooks that I've moved. The Paul Samuelson textbook on economics, which everybody read at some point. The one book I did not take with me when I moved, and again, it's something that I realized and I regretted, was my book on constitutional law. That was a fun class at Penn.
I did. Yeah, I took some law classes as well. Mostly like journalism law when I was journalism.
I basically wanted to know the concepts behind bail.
Okay.
No, that's not true. Thinking for events in later life that I would not have a chance to go back and undo.
Let's see, the Eighth Amendment, is that bail?
Yeah, I don't know what the excessive bail is. So I'm not sure of that one. I know excessive punishment.
Yeah,
that might be the Eighth Amendment.
Yeah. So yeah, it's stuff's all interesting. I did like my journalism law classes. It was fun.
Those were good classes. I like the classes on critical thinking.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, lots of fun stuff there, but lots of some boring stuff too. Like the history of journalism, I was like, oh, it's so boring. But there were some good classes that we took. So I did take a jogging class in my final semester at Penn State. Because you needed.
What was the final exam? You had to jog under 5 minutes to do a mile or something.
We had to jog a mile, and we had to improve upon our time for the midterm, which is also a mile. So I was.
So you deliberately went slow in the midterm because you knew you could beat it in the finals. You don't want to run your best race in the midterm.
Right. That's basically the strategy. I was a mess for my final. This girl I used to know, she was visiting. She graduated.
So you're in no mood for running a race or anything like that in the morning.
Yeah, we went drinking.
If the race had been at 6 p.m., it would have been different.
Could have, yeah. We went drinking the night before, and then we went back, and then the next morning, she's like, you want to get breakfast? I'm like, oh, I have to jog a mile. She's like, you're not jogging a mile. I'm like, I know. I have to for class. She's like, well, good luck. And so I went, and I actually ran well. I actually was, despite drinking a lot the night before, I ran really well. And I beat my time, and then I puked everywhere.
Now, did you get penalized if you turned your jog into a run?
No. It was, I don't know. It was the stupidest class ever.
No, I mean, it's like race walking, which is I think it's an Olympic sport actually. That you got penalized if you started to go into something more that would be considered race walking, which I think means that at least one foot has to be on the ground at all times.
Yeah, our professor, luckily wasn't that strict, for that. Yeah, I mean, I told the story before, but he separated the professor separated us in groups, and so we would jog around campus, and then we'd come in. It was 9:45 to 11, so we'd come in, sign in 9:45, then we'd jog around campus. We'd come back at 11, sign out. That's what we did, and then for a couple weeks we did this, and then suddenly my group was like, I forget who it was. I don't know if it was me, but like we're like, wait a second, no one's watching us. We're just jogging around campus. Like, no one's paying attention to us. Obviously, there's no cameras anywhere.
Right.
We're like, why don't we just sit down in this cafe and just chill out?
You mean the professor? The professor was not running with you?
No. Professor was not running at all. He was just chilling in the gym. So yeah,
he was just making sure that everyone who signed in at the beginning came back at the end to sign out.
That's basically it. Yeah. So we were like, okay, let's just sit in this cafe. So that's what we do. We'd come in, we sign in, jog, or even sometimes walk to a cafe, and then we just sit there for the hour, 15 minutes, and then we go sign out. And then we did this for a couple weeks.
Now you see what he should have had done is he should have had you jog into like 4 or 5 different places and sign in at those places.
Right, if you were smart,
and then check it at the end. If he were smart, that's what he should have done.
Right. That would have been a good idea. Luckily,
because that way you check with all the 5 checkpoints to make sure that everybody who signed in at the start of the class that day signed in at the other places and didn't go to a cafe to try to pick up girls.
Right, like Andy. Luckily, you weren't our professor, but so we did this for a couple weeks, and then suddenly we were like, wait a second. We don't even have to meet a cafe. We could just sign in, go back to our dorms, and fall asleep, and then come back and sign out.
What'd you have? An hour, 15 minutes?
Hour 15, yeah.
So we watched the first half of a baseball game.
Yeah, no, it was.
Innings.
Yeah, it was. I'd go 9:45. It was right across the street too, so it was very convenient. It was like 9:45, sign in.
You mean from where you lived?
Yeah. So it was. I'd come back. It would be 9:50. I go back to sleep, wake up 10:40, 10:45, and then just go back and sign out. That's what I did the whole time.
Now, did they have the Paterno statue when you were there?
Yeah, they had.
Yeah, so you could have signed in and gone talk to the statue for 45 minutes.
Yeah, the Nittany Lion statue, Old Main, like there are a bunch of places they could have done that. That's actually, that's what he really should have done, but he didn't care. I guess he just didn't care at all. So
what's that? The professor? You mean?
The jogging professor. Just
I thought you were talking about Joe Paterno.
Oh, I'm sure he didn't care about their jogging class either. So, all right, Andy, we're at. You said no 4 hours, so we're 3:15. So I think
that's okay. I still got time.
Okay. Well, I don't even know what we would talk about at this point, but
do we have anybody still watching or listening? They could.
We have 17. We have 17 people on YouTube. We have 1 on Twitch, and 294 at some point were on X. I don't know who's still on.
What is Twitch?
Twitch is it's Amazon's live streaming. So it's mostly for video games, but I have an account there, and it automatically streams to Twitch. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I thought Twitch was some old guy who confused it with Twitter.
It might as well be. Yeah, it sounds the same.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
But, I'm just trying to think if there's anything else that I didn't cover that maybe you wanted to talk about.
Not especially. I feel like we broke down all the games pretty well, and I like that we agreed on 11 out of the 14. So that was nice.
Let me see if I have any of those other, the interesting stats on the. I think I mentioned before about the fact that the teams after playing the Jets are 9-0 to the over.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And I think I have a couple of others there that might be worth noting. Teams after playing Houston are 8-1 straight up.
Okay.
Which makes sort of sense because you're playing one of the best defenses in the league. So you figure to be playing a weaker defense. The next time I'm going to take a look for any of these that have teams are after you play Chicago, they're 2-6-1. Dallas, I guess, was the team that tied.
Mm-hmm.
After playing Green Bay, teams are 7-2 straight up and against the spread. I mentioned Houston. After playing the Colts, 2-8 straight up. 4-6 against the spread. After playing New England, 2-8 straight up. 3-7 against the spread. So that's who would that?
Wait,
that would be the 2-8 straight up. 3-7 against the spread after facing the Patriots.
Okay.
And, and again, the thought would be that maybe playing the Patriots physical game takes something out of you.
Yeah, that's
I mean, a lot of this could be coincidence because it's a small data size, but
right.
Look at after playing the Jets, I mentioned the teams are 2-7 straight up, 1-8 against the spread, and that again is because when you play the Jets, you're playing one of the weaker teams, and so inevitably, in most cases, you're going up in class the following week, the next opponent. Mm-hmm. So you would have. Yeah. That's not necessarily true, but the numbers pointed out. So that's that. Let's see. Any other strong ones? After playing the Bills, after playing Buffalo, teams are 7-2 against the spread, 6-2-1 after playing Carolina, 2-8 after playing Denver. And again, takes a toll on you. That's why they're 2-8 straight up and against the spread. 7-2 after playing Green Bay. I mentioned that because it's 7-2 straight up and against the spread. After playing Jacksonville, that's good news for the Chargers when they come back next week. 7-2 against the spread.
So does that bad record after Denver worry you with the Kansas City?
Normally it might, but because of the the external situations about this game. Now, who did Indianapolis play? Indianapolis played Atlanta, but that was any effects would have been off because I had the week off. No, I'm not concerned because again these numbers are nice to know to offer support. I don't necessarily know that these numbers would put you on a game.
Right.
Let's see. I mentioned Jets after playing the Jets, 1-8. As far as totals go, I mentioned Cleveland after playing Cleveland, 7-1-1 to the over. That would suggest that Baltimore and the Jets would go over, but because of Baltimore, after playing New England, teams are 7-3 to the over, and the Jets meet that qualification, so that fits in nicely. Any other teams? Well, I mentioned the 9-0 after playing the Jets, so that would lead itself to the Cincinnati-New England game going over, and I could see that with the pace of play. One thing I did want to mention, let me see, Seattle 6-2-1 to the over after playing them. Tampa Bay 2-7 or 7-2 to the under when the week after or the game after playing Tampa Bay. One thing I do look at, and this is interesting because I think it gave me a play on the Jacksonville-Arizona game. And let me see if I can get over to it here because you don't see this very often. Let me call this program up. Okay, and I look at something called pace of game. And what I mean by pace of game, number of offensive and defensive plays that these teams run, where do they fall as far as league average goes? So when I get down to the Jacksonville and Arizona game, Jacksonville and Arizona lead the league 1-2. Jacksonville averages 65.9 offensive plays per game. Arizona 65.0. Those are the two. So when I call fastest pace, because some media places defines a pace of game as the time between snaps. Okay, which can of course vary. With the 40-second clock and all that. I look at it as number of snaps. How many plays do you run on average? Because the more plays you run on offense, the more chances you have to score. Not necessarily the same on defense, because interestingly enough, Jacksonville is number 22 in allowing only 60.1 points per plays per game defensively. Arizona, and it's actually the reverse number. It's actually number 13 because they average more. There's number one averages the most defensive plays allowed. But I look at offensive plays because offensive plays are related to execution. Defensive plays allowed are to how bad you are at allowing execution. So I take a look at offensive plays because those are plays that are designed to gain yardage as opposed to plays on defense which are designed to prevent yardage. And I want to know about the success. So I look for those teams to play over. So that's one of the things I'm looking at this week, Jacksonville and Arizona to go over the total based upon the number of plays, the number of offensive plays they have per game.
Yeah, it's a good call. I think that's
what's the total in that game? I think 47.
It is 47.5 right now.
Yeah, let me just see what the numbers are because I think the numbers in their games Let me see here. Let's see here. Because I think the average totals are relatively in line with that 47. I think. Jacksonville games average 46.6 points per game, and they are 5-5 over under. Arizona games average 48.0 points per game, and they're 6-4 over under, which means that the average is about 47.2 between the two teams. And they've both played 10 games. You have 46.6, 1.4. That'd be 47.3.
Okay.
Which is basically 47.5. So nothing there, but the fact that they're matching up against the number 1 and number 2 offensive plays would make. And overall, including defensive plays, Arizona's number 4 with 127.4 offensive plays per game, and Jacksonville is number 6 at 126. So whatever that can be used to. I do use that when I find extremes. Like 31 and 32. If they met, you'd expect a low-scoring game because they don't run many offensive plays. Now, obviously, you can score on defense, but as far as the traditional way of scoring points, you need the offense to be able to move the ball, and that's part of the thing that I use with my efficiency rating. We're comparing offensive yardage to offensive points and defensive yardage to defensive points, and you think that the number 1 team gaining yards is the number 1 team scoring points. If that's not the case, it means they're turning the ball over or they're moving downfield and missing field goals or doing something along those lines, as opposed to if you're 10th in yardage and 1st in points, generally means you're playing in short fields, you're scoring touchdowns instead of settling for field goals, and you're getting scores directly off of defensive or special teams plays or being set up in scoring positions off offensive and special teams plays.
Mm-hmm.
So those are just a couple of things that over the years have seemed to work out. Just little tiny edges like that.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. So pretty cool. Pretty good to get some plays out of that, and that may not be on the radar. So,
well, again, those are the things that when I don't look at a game the first 2 or 3 times, I don't realize, and then I start taking a look at these secondary and tertiary factors or information that I have, and say maybe there's an advantage. Maybe there's I have a sheet, and I don't know if it'll show up well, but I chart 14 different categories as far as matchups are concerned. And let me see if I can find that page here, because I had it, I think, with my comment. Yeah, here it is. Probably can't see it, but it doesn't come across very well. But what it is I take a look at matchups, rushing yards in offense and rushing yards defense, and I take a look at the ranking. So, for example, let me find a good example here. Seattle and Tennessee. Seattle ranks in the top 6 in fewest yards allowed rushing over the course of a game, yards per game, and Tennessee rates in the bottom 6 of yards gained rushing over the course of a game, average per game. So that's a matchup that favors Seattle. Same thing with New England. New England, top 6 run defense. Cincinnati, bottom 6 rush offense. So you take a look at things like that. Let me see if I can find one in the San Francisco Carolina game. No, I really can't. But I also use yards per play differential. Detroit, one of the top 6 in yards per play on offense. Giants, one of the bottom 6 in yards per play in allowed defense. So there's a significant edge. Detroit has a number of edges there. New England, one of the best in yards per play on offense. Cincinnati, one of the worst in yards per play defense. Yet I like Cincinnati in this game because of the spot.
Right.
So I rely on these numbers, but I don't necessarily make plays. One of the ones I do like, and I try to play the team, and Seattle's a perfect example. Yards per play differential. In other words, you average 5 yards per play on offense. You allow 4.5 on defense. That's plus 1.4. Seattle ranks in the top 6 as far as positive net yards per play, and Tennessee ranks in the bottom 6 in terms of net yards per play allowed, which tends to lend itself, at least in theory, for a large margin of victory, because you've got a team that is very good offense versus defense in yards per play, meaning they they average more than they allow, and you're going up against a team that's exactly excuse me, the reverse. And remember, you're talking about teams at the top in one category and teams at the bottom, so they're going to have the best numbers. That is the only such matchup this week as far as yards per play differential.
Mm-hmm.
So
okay,
just a couple of, I won't call them secrets, but little techniques that you go. But then again, things like DVOA and other things. Now, mine are relatively simple statistics because they don't come up with necessarily a formula that is defined by how you define parameters.
mm-hmm.
In other words, yards per play is a very simple calculation. Okay, yards gained divided by numbers of plays. You don't say it's not like the quarterback rating system where you take 2/10 of this and 5/10 of that and you multiply it by 6 times. Like I think someone showed last week as one of those crazy formulas just to show how ridiculous some of these are. These are simple things like runs created in baseball is a nice number, but there are assumptions behind it, and I don't know necessarily that the assumptions behind it are valid.
Right.
Bill James came up with his formula along those lines. I think runs created or something, and it has a couple of factors in it that seem to make sense. But when you multiply something by 0.1 as opposed to 0.4, where'd you come up with the 0.1 or where'd you come up with the 0.4?
Right. Yeah, it's always tricky.
How much weight? Was it a result of backfitting to make the formula work? Right. Which is nice because that means that you found a formula. See, I will trust things that I think of. I'll say, what if I use this formula? I would think that the results would show this. And then I go through the formula and I find out that the results don't show that. Okay, I discard that formula. I come up with a totally different formula and I apply it to the results, the past results, and it comes up what I thought it would look like. Well, that's a little bit more significant to me because the result was not determined before the formula that got to the result it was the predicted result was validated by the actual results when you go back and take a look at it.
Yeah.
Which I guess is the reverse of backfitting. It's the reverse of predicting.
Right.
Where you say, I would think that the team that has the most turnover, that commits the fewer turnovers in the game, is going to cover, 55% or better. Well, I could do the research and find out that it's 50-50, in which case, okay, that theorem is not correct. Or I could find out that, well, they cover 65% of those games. And then I say, well, it makes sense. My theory made sense. That you commit fewer mistakes, you're going to have better success.
Right. Exactly.
As a small window, if you can find something between, most results, if you can find something between, most results might fall in 45 to 55% range. I'd like to find those that fall into the, 35 to 45 and, 55 to 85% range.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds great if you can get that and those numbers.
Yeah, or 75% range, yeah. So
yeah.
Anyway, we made it to 3:30.
All right, there we go. All right, guys. Thank you for watching and commenting. Really appreciate it. Thank you especially to Kevin Kovac for the $5 super chat, $5 super chat, $5 super chat, and $10 super chat. Thanks as always. Thank you so much as always, Kevin. You are the best. But yeah, Andy, great to have you on once again. Love doing the show with you. Make sure you check out thelogicalapproach.com. Sign up for Andy's newsletter. It is fantastic. I highly recommend it.
And I will not be tardy this week. In fact, what time is it now? We've got I got the extra half hour for not doing the 4 hours. So I will do my best to get up my spreadsheet and my power ratings overnight tonight.
Okay, sounds good. All right, we're going to be back tomorrow night with Evan after about 20 minutes after the Thursday game's over, and then with Tom on Friday. So look forward to those shows as well. But yeah, once again, please hit like, subscribe, comment below, share this video. And
by the way, are you doing shows next week with Thanksgiving?
I have to ask. Well, I mean, are you good on Wednesday? I assume. I mean, it's not
I should be.
Okay.
No.
Yeah, I need to ask Evan and Tom. Actually, Friday is my high school reunion, the 25th high school reunion.
Oh.
So I need to figure out if I'm actually going to that. because for some reason they decided to schedule it the same day as the Eagles game. But anyway, so traffic's
Is
gonna be
it is it a
disaster.
day? Is it a daytime or nighttime affair?
It's 7 o'clock in the evening. So
Because the Eagles game is what, 3 o'clock Eastern?
3 o'clock, yeah. So if
Yeah.
that game goes to overtime, the traffic would be a disaster down there. It's downtown. So yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, and it's Black Friday also.
Yeah. I don't know what these people at my high school I don't know what they're thinking, but yeah, I almost don't want to go just based on principle. But it is my 25th anniversary, so or it's reunion. So
have you gone to any of the previous 24?
I went to 5 and 10. I was sick for 15, so I couldn't go for that, and then 20 got canceled by COVID.
COVID,
So,
okay, yeah.
yeah. So I haven't gone since 10. I'd fun at 5 and 10.
By the way, I uncovered a great mystery that you might be interested in.
Okay, what's that?
The origins of COVID.
Okay.
The origins of COVID can be traced to the American Ventriloquist Association. American ventriloquists contributed to COVID because they could then perform once everything was past its peak with masks. So you couldn't see that their mouths were actually moving doing their ventriloquism. How's that for a conspiracy theory?
Yeah, I like it.
Let's make it go viral.
Yes, let's do it.
Especially now that it's irrelevant.
Yeah, that's true. All right, guys. Once again, thank you so much, and we'll be back tomorrow. Andy, have a great night, and
I'll try and listen tomorrow night. Send me the link.
I will. We'll do. So yeah, we'll talk to you later, and have a great night.